Hello, this is a guy who likes fanfiction and is too lazy to read, so here is Son of the Sun in audio form. Check the description for the links to the author. Chapter 6. The Butterfly Effect. Or, do you believe in fate? Jiraiya was as timely as usual to his meetings with the Hokage regarding the Kyuubi attack investigation. However, there was something different this time. The first, less noticeable difference is that Jiraiya had a look of excitement on his face. That was good, as it meant that Jiraiya had made some important breakthrough in his research. Which might explain the second, more noticeable difference: Inoichi Yamanaka and Anko Mitarashi walking behind him. I got it, sensei. Jiraiya claimed enthusiastically. I got the definitive proof that will exonerate the Uchihas, and expose the real culprit behind the Kyuubi attack. Those are indeed excellent news, Jiraiya. Not only we will finally be able to put an end to Danzo's suspicions of the clan, but we will close Konoha's darkest chapter, Sarutobi replied as he gave a puff to his pipe. Anko, show him the report, Jiraiya instructed. Anko nodded, and handed the Hokage a folder with several files inside. Hiruzen inspected the files, and as he did, his good mood slowly vanished while his expression grew somber. He looked at Jiraiya with a grave expression. So you think that the perpetrator of the Kyuubi attack was Orochimaru? Listen, Hokage-sama, I know it sounds far-fetched, but when you put all the evidence together, it makes perfect sense, Anko hurried to explain. Enlighten me then. Jiraiya cleared his throat and began his explanation. I've been investigating that shady mercenary group, Akatsuki, for the past 4 years. Like I told you before, they were interested in the tailed beasts, and often incorporated Sannin into their ranks. And guess who was among them? The snake bastard himself. Jiraiya-sama brought a no-name Sannin to torture and interrogation a couple months ago. My team and I have been scanning his mind, and made some interesting discoveries, Inoichi interceded. The first one, as Jiraiya said, was that Orochimaru is part of the Akatsuki. I could see many memories of Orochimaru not only wearing the organization's uniform, a black cloak with red clouds, but having meetings with other members. Though he never met more than one member at once. The second one was that Orochimaru is creating his own ninja village somewhere, called Otagakura or something, Anko added. I think we should find and deal with that village as soon as possible before it snowballs into a bigger problem. While these discoveries are indeed worrying, I fail to see the connection between Orochimaru and the Kyuubi, Sarutobi pointed out. Don't you see it, sensei? It's obvious that Orochimaru was a member of Akatsuki before he defected from Konoha. Besides his own ambitions, he wanted to be Hokage in order to increase Akatsuki's resources and had access to the Kyuubi. But things didn't go as he planned, he defected, and a year later, when the seal on Kushina was at its weakest, returns, sneaks his way to the place she was being kept, kills the guards, takes her away and releases the Kyuubi. Anko decided to intercede. Think about it, Hokage-sama. Orochimaru was the perfect man for the job. He's a really good infiltrator, knows Konoha and Zanouts better than anybody else, and is strong enough to deal with even the strongest of our Umbu. After destroying Konoha, he would have handed the Kyuubi to Akatsuki, and thus killing 2 birds with 1 stone. But once again, he didn't count on Minato's interference, who more than likely defeated him and then sealed the Kyuubi inside Naruto, foiling his plans. And now he's building his own village in order to raise an army to try to destroy Konoha and reclaim the Kyuubi again. While those are believable motives, there's still the mystery on how Orochimaru managed to place the Kyuubi under his control. It's well known that normal genjutsus, no matter how powerful, hardly work on tailed beasts, and the only 2 men being able to control them were Hashirama-sensei and Madara, ninjas on a league way above Orochimaru's. It is well known that Orochimaru was experimenting with Hashirama-sama's cells, and we know he produced at least 1 success in the form of Tenzo. What if that asshole finally perfected the process and gained the first Hokage's power? Anko suggested. A terrifying thought, but unlikely. If Orochimaru had Hashirama-sensei's power for so long, he would have used it against us already, the third stated. While all of you made an commendable effort, I'm afraid that this won't be enough to publicly place the Uchiha clan above suspicion. Anko muttered a curse under her breath, while Jiraiya looked downwards, upset. Inoichi remained neutral. But you made a good job with this investigation. This Otogakuer is something that deserves further investigation. Inoichi, you and the rest of TNI should continue extracting all the information you can regarding this issue from the captive. I want daily updates on this. Yes, Hokage-sama. Inoichi and Anko said in unison, and they left the office. Jiraiya, we only need one more piece to finish the puzzle, the means used to control the Kyuubi. If you can uncover that, then the investigation will be complete and we can pin Orochimaru as the main culprit of the attack. I will, Sensei. I'm not going to stop now that we're so close to end this, Jiraiya stated. Meanwhile, I'll use the information you've gathered to dissuade Danzo from stopping bothering the Uchiha clan. You are dismissed. One more thing, Sensei, Jiraiya mentioned. My investigation of the Akatsuki and Jinchuriki had me find some interesting discovery tangential to the investigation. And that would be? Suna had created a Jinchuriki. Hiruzen raised an eyebrow. Do you have any information? Yes. His name is Gaara. He's the youngest son of the current Kazekage. It seems that he's doing his best to keep Gaara's status a secret, but the boy is having a lot of trouble keeping the tailed beast under control, and such thing can't be concealed easily. My guess, the result of a shoddy sealing process. Plus there's the fact that we're only learning about this now. Only Kami knows how long that kid has been a Jinchuriki. More worrying news. I knew that Suna had the one tail in their power, but it wasn't sealed on a person. If they decided to create a Jinchuriki now, I don't want to think about the implications. We know that Tsunagakuer is the weakest of the 5 great ninja villages. Maybe they decided to put their tailed beast to use in order to appear strong, to both potential enemies and clients. Even then, that's something we can't afford to overlook. Jiraiya, I'm going to prepare a trip for you to Suna. Once everything is settled, you'll inspect the Jinchuriki and uncover the reasons behind his creation. Suna is our ally and I'd hate to think that they're plotting against us, but you can't never be too cautious. Understood, Sensei. Fire release, Great Fireball Jutsu. Shizun jumped in time to avoid the incoming fireball, which exploded against the ground a couple meters in front of her. Her opponent was an 11-year-old boy of average height with dull black hair tied in a ponytail and black eyes, wearing the Konoha-chinen flak jacket over his usual black shirt. Said opponent took advantage of the dust raised by his fireball and dashed at her at an ungodly speed. Two kunai clashed against each other multiple times, filling the air with sharp, metallic noises. Shizun leaped backwards, and while she was midair, fired a barrage of senbons at her opponent from her wrist-mounted needle launcher. Said opponent also jumped backwards to avoid them, and used a kunai to expertly deflect the ones he couldn't dodge. Once Shizun touched the ground, she was alerted by the sound of spinning shuriken flying at her. The shuriken hit the target, but the young medic nin vanished in a puff of smoke, leaving a log behind. Upon quickly retrieving his weapons from the log, Shizun's much younger opponent looked around, trying to locate his enemy. His ears picked a sharp whistle that signaled an incoming barrage of senbons. Activating his Sharingan, the male ninja threw a few kunai in the air, which clashed against the senbons, stopping their momentum and making them falling to the ground. Shizun suddenly appeared behind the Uchiha, quickly forming a series of seals. Water release, water wall. Shizun's cheeks puffed, and she expelled from her mouth a large amount of water at the Uchiha, who suddenly burst into a murder of crows, flying in different directions. Shizun quickly formed a hand seal and shouted release, making the crows disappear. Knowing where her opponent was, she quickly turned around while delivering a high kick, which was parried by her opponent's arms. From there, the medic nin and the Uchiha traded punches and kicks, until Shizun made the Uchiha trip. The black-haired woman quickly pinned the boy to the ground, carefully avoiding eye contact. I think this is over, Shizun declared, placing a kunai on the Uchiha's throat. I guess it is, her opponent conceded. Shizun put the kunai back on her pouch, and helped her opponent to stand up. Nice spar, Itaka-kun. Thanks, Shizun-san. This time I managed to stay 5 minutes without using the Sharingan. Itaka said proudly. I'm sure it will be 10 minutes next time, the medic nin said, smiling. I'm not so sure. I still can't beat you even with the Sharingan. No, but you will. You're improving at a really fast pace, which shouldn't be a surprise, given how quickly you managed to earn a promotion. I'm sure you'll become a jonin way before I do, haha. Yeah. Itaka sheepishly said, rubbing the back of his neck. Plus I can tell that today you weren't entirely focused. Really? Because I thought I was as focused as ever. Itaka-kun, you cannot lie to me. I can see that there's something troubling you. Care to tell me what it is? Shizun's question was met with silence as the Uchiha prodigy looked at the grass below, and sat down. Shizun started to feel bad for pressuring him to talk about something he clearly wasn't comfortable with. She sat beside him. Sorry Itaka-kun, it was not my place to ask. If it's something of personal nature. Shizun-san, did somebody you love ever forced you to do something you don't want to? Itaki asked. Shizun was taken aback by such question, and wondered if Itaki had some problems with his parents. Well, no. I'm lucky such thing never happened to me. Well, it's that. Itaki stuttered a bit. He never talked about this with anybody else, not even Shisui, his cousin and closest friend. But then again, there was something about Shizun and her generally friendly demeanor that made him more comfortable to talk about personal matters. My parents, they want me to join Umbu. And you don't want to, Shizun reasoned. Exactly. I know the kind of missions the Umbu do, and I don't want to do that, at least not yet. While that was technically true, Itaka purposely left out the other, much more meaningful reason for him not wanting to become an Umbu. Well, I'd say that the Umbu would greatly benefit from somebody of your talent, Itaka-kun. I'm sure you'll be promoted to squad captain in no time, Shizun replied, making Itaka sigh. Then again, if that's not what you want to do you have any other idea? Well, I was planning that, after being promoted to Jonin, I'd ask for a squad of genin to train. I always liked the idea of being a teacher. Well, not an academy teacher, but a field teacher, you know what I mean. Yes, of course. In fact, I think I might do the same once I'm promoted. I'm sure you'll be an amazing teacher, Shizun-san. And about your problem, well, I don't know what else I could tell you other than talk to your parents, and make sure they know how you feel. If they really love you, and I'm sure they do, they'll understand you and let you choose your own path. They spend a couple minutes there, silently sitting beside each other. A gentle breeze started to blow. Well, I don't know if it will work, but I'll try talking to them. Thanks for your advice, Shizun-san, Itaka said as he stood up. You're welcome, Itaka-kun. Same hour tomorrow. I'm afraid not. I've been assigned for a mission outside the village. Ah, nuts. Now where I'm going to find a worthy sparring opponent that doesn't leave me all sore. Seriously, never spar with Tsunade-sama. That woman never holds back, not even with her children. Itaka chuckled. Well, she's the best medic in the world, right? She doesn't hold back because she will patch you up afterwards. Anyway, I better get going. See ya. Itaka said as he headed back to the Uchiha compound. Meanwhile, the firstborn of another clan had returned to her home as well. Hinata Hyuga was still smiling upon remembering the heated argument between Naruto and the history teacher regarding the Second Ninja War. Naruto insisted that the information on their textbook was wrong, since he claimed his parents were veterans from said war, and their version of a certain battle clashed with the textbook's description. Hinata had the feeling that the Sannin, while undoubtedly skilled and powerful, had exaggerated their contributions during said war. Still, there was something heartwarming of seeing Naruto defending her parents' reputation so vehemently. Hinata was now regretting not talking to Naruto sooner. After that afternoon in the park, Naruto sat beside her instead of his usual seat near Sasuke Uchiha. Though while she enjoyed his company most of the time, Naruto had an habit to loudly disrupt the class when the lesson failed to catch his interest, which could be kind of annoying. One day, Hinata politely asked Naruto to stop interrupting the teacher when he was explaining the basics of chakra control. Apparently, Naruto already knew that already, and wanted to do something else. She was afraid that Naruto would take her request as some sort of betrayal and would cease their friendship, but his reaction surprised her. What? Oh, sorry Hinata, I didn't know you were so interested in this, I'll shut up now. he had happily replied. Everybody was stunned at the Hyaga's amazing feat of convincing the hyperactive blonde to remain silent. The teacher called it a miracle. Now whenever Naruto didn't feel like listening the teacher, he often followed Shikamaru's example and took a nap instead. Unlike Shikamaru, there was times in which Naruto would snore loudly, prompting the teacher to throw the board rubber at him. After class, Naruto and Hinata often went to the park to play together. People would murmur upon seeing the demon boy playing with the Hyaga heiress, but neither paid any heed to those people. They were too busy having fun. Other times Naruto would invite Hinata to his house. Whenever she went, they usually played with Naruto's 2-year-old siblings, Hagane and Kaida. Hinata thought that maybe one day she could bring Hanabi to play with them given that they were only a year older than her. Usually, the 4 of them were under Jiraiya or Shizun's watch. Tsunade would arrive much later, once her shift at the hospital was over. The 3 of them were always really kind and polite to her, and made their best to make her feel welcomed. However, today was none of those days. Naruto had to meet his mother for some training at Training Ground 3, their usual training spot, so finding herself with nothing better to do, Hinata decided to head back home and maybe spend some quality time with Hanabi until her father called her for gentle fist training. Hinata realized that, for all the times she has been in Naruto's house, she never asked him to visit hers. Then again, her friendship with Naruto was a secret to pretty much all of her clan. She was still thinking how to tell her father that she had befriended the demon boy everybody feared and avoided. A nasty surprise awaited the little Hyaga, though. Upon entering the compound, she found it oddly deserted. No Hyaga youths training, no branch house patrolling the place. She had a bad feeling about that. After dropping her backpack and removing her shoes at the entrance, she started calling for her parents, or anybody else. Finally, she found another clansman, Ko Hyaga, a main house member who was his usual caretaker whenever her parents were busy. "Oh, Hinata-sama, I see you're back," Ko somberly greeted the Hyaga heiress. "What's going on, Ko-san? Where's everybody?" Hinata asked, worried. "Hinata-sama, something bad has happened, your mother." Ko began. Hinata's skin turned even paler. "Mother? What happened to mother?" Hinata panicked. Ko grabbed her hand, and led her towards her parents' bedroom, where most of the Hyaga, both main and branch house, were waiting outside. After giving birth to Hanabi, Hinata's mother wasn't the same again. Her body was often in pain, ate very little and more often than not would end up throwing up and felt perpetually exhausted. They had called a doctor before which prescribed her some medicaments. They appeared to work at first, but after that the symptoms returned, and became worse each day. Hinata was afraid that something like this would happen anytime soon. "You know Hikari-sama has felt really bad these past months. It appears that she got even worse. Hayashi-sama called the family medic in order to check her. We can only wait to see what he can do." They didn't have to wait much until they heard Hayashi's angry and desperate yells. "What do you mean that you did all what you could? There has to be something you can do to save her. I already told you, Hayashi-sama, the symptoms are too advanced. You should have called me earlier than this. We already called you once. Your medicine didn't do anything to get her better. I'm sorry, Hayashi-sama, but I did all what I could. I can prescribe you some painkillers to make your wife's last days more bearable. Get out of my sight." Hayashi bellowed. The medic left, and the gathering of Hyagas started to murmur among themselves. Hinata was on the verge of tears. "You must remain strong, Hinata-sama. Is what Hikari-sama would have wanted," Ko said, who was also fighting tears. Hinata felt her world falling apart. No, this was too cruel. Now that things were finally going better for her, she had to lose her mother? All because that doctor couldn't see that her state of health was way worse than he initially thought. If Tsunade had treated her mother, then... Wait, that was it. What about Tsunade-sama? Can we call her to check mother? Hinata asked. We already looked for her. She wasn't at the hospital, and there was nobody in her residence. We don't know where she is right now. Hinata's face saddened upon seeing her mother's last hope disappear. Until she remembered why Tsunade wasn't on the hospital nor her house. Ko-san, I know where Tsunade-sama is. Hinata exclaimed in realization. You do? Yes. Come on, let's hurry. On training ground 3, Naruto was lying on the grass, panting heavily, with bruises all over his body. Every centimeter of his body was in horrible pain. Come on brat, get up. We haven't finished the warm-up. Tsunade vigorously shouted as she lightly kicked him on the sides. Can you please, tone down the brutality, a little bit, please? Naruto said between gasps. When you become a ninja and go out of the village, you will find enemies that will try to kill you, and won't hold back. So answer me, why should I hold back then? I would be a bad teacher if I don't prepare you properly, Tsunade explained, hands on her hips as she stared down at Naruto. I'd like to stand up, but I can't feel my legs, or my anything. Naruto swore that he would never call Jiraiya's meditation and chakra control exercises boring again. Tsunade sighed, and rolled her eyes. She crouched before Naruto, and placed a hand on his chest, which started to glow with a green light. Soon, a pleasant feeling started to cross his body, slowly but surely erasing the pain. While the pain didn't disappear completely, it diminished enough to be bearable. You're such a wimp, you know? What would the fourth think if he saw you complaining like that over a little rough training? You won't become Hokage anytime soon if you don't build some pain tolerance, Tsunade scolded as she healed him. Better now, kid. Yeah, thanks mom. Don't expect me to go this easy on you all the time. Okay, let's continue. Get in the taijutsu basic stance, and try to dodge my dash. Naruto-kun. A high-pitched voice yelled. Both Naruto and Tsunade turned towards the source of the voice, and saw Hinata and an adult Hyuga running towards them. Oh, hey Hinata. Nice to see you. Did you come here to spar with mom and me? Naruto asked, grinning at the idea. Both Hinata and the unknown Hyuga stopped to gasp for air. They were both completely red and sweating, as if they have been running non-stop for quite some time. Tsunade-sama, you have to come with us, it's an emergency. The adult Hyuga pleaded. Hey, calm down. What's going on? Tsunade asked. It's my mother, she's very sick, and our usual doctor can't do anything to make her get better. Hinata explained, almost in the verge of tears. Naruto gasped in horror, and turned to Tsunade. Mom, you have to help Hinata. Please. Alright. Just let me go to my house first to get my medical instruments and medicines, Tsunade said. Soon it became nighttime. Upon arriving, Tsunade pretty much kicked Hayashi out of the bedroom, since she didn't want an audience when treating patients in critical condition, and spent there the following hours. That didn't stop the Hyuga clan head as well as many other clansmen to gather in front of the closed doors. Hinata was sitting in the hallway near the bedroom, with Naruto sat at her side, trying to comfort her to the best of his ability. Mom is the best medic there is. She'll heal your mom in no time, you'll see. Hinata didn't say anything, just nodded, and prayed to whatever deity is out there for her mom to get out of this alive. Hinata then realized something, this was the first time Naruto was in her house. Besides that, now all the Hyuga clan, her father included, knew that she was friends with Naruto. But none of that mattered to her anymore. Her mother was the only thing in her mind right now. Finally, after several hours that felt like days, an exhausted Tsunade exited the bedroom. She was immediately swarmed by nervous Hyugas. A glare was enough to make them to keep some space. Alright, I have good news and bad news. What do you want to hear first? Tsunade asked. The good news, Hayashi replied, trying his best to conceal his desperation. Your wife is out of danger now, she'll live. A chorus of relieved sighs filled the place, Hayashi's being the most audible. See Hinata? Your mom is going to be okay. Naruto said to an equally relieved Hinata. She's very weak right now, but if you follow my instructions, she'll be fine in a few months, Tsunade added. And the bad news? Hayashi asked. Her uterus was beyond repair. She won't have any more children again, Tsunade announced. Her statement was followed by several murmurs. If she's going to be okay, then that doesn't matter. Hayashi, your wife was afflicted by an infectious disease that I traced back to her uterus. It was in a very advanced state. 2 days later, and she would have been beyond saving. Was there any complications when she gave birth to your youngest daughter? Yes, there were, but the doctors said that she would be fine. Hayashi protested. Evidently, those doctors missed something. Anyway, there's no point in fretting over that. I'll come here every week to check her progress. If I can't come for whatever reason, Shizun will come in my place. Now this is what your wife must do if she wants to recover. After Tsunade finished her explanations, she and Naruto were escorted to the compound's main gate. It was late and treating Hikari for so long had left Tsunade utterly exhausted. She prayed Jiraiya wasn't in the mood for sex. Oh, who was she kidding? That horny bastard was always in the mood for sex. Oh well, at least she had a very good excuse to put him down. In the name of the entire Hyuga clan, thank you, Tsunade-sama. What you just did today will never be forgotten, Hayashi solemnly said as he bowed before Tsunade. Yes, thank you, Tsunade-sama, Hinata echoed as she bowed as well. It's okay, I was just doing my job. Besides, our kids are friends, right? Tsunade said with a chuckle. Then she yawned. Boy, after that, I feel like I could sleep for a whole week. Let's hope there are no emergencies tomorrow at the hospital. Come on brat, it's way past your bedtime. Coming. See you tomorrow, Hinata. Naruto chimed as he waved at her. Come on Hinata, you should be in bed already too, Hayashi stated as he led his daughter inside. Can I see mother first? Hinata asked. Hinata, your mother needs to rest now. You can see her tomorrow morning. Alright then, Hinata conceded, a bit disappointed. After all that had happened, she wanted to see that her mother was okay with her own eyes. But she knew that her father was right. By the way, you didn't tell me you were friends with that kid, Hayashi noted in an oddly neutral tone. Sorry father, it's that. Hinata stuttered, unable to form a coherent sentence. Were you afraid that I wouldn't let you be friends with the boy holding the 9 tails within him? Hayashi asked. Hinata nodded. Oh, other parents tell their kids to stay away from Naruto, and I thought that you. I only would have forbidden such a thing if the boy proved to be a bad influence on you, and for the time being, it doesn't seem to be the case. So you're okay with him being my friend? As long as he doesn't give me any reason to mistrust him and behaves properly, yes. And I'll let this time pass, but I don't want you to keep any secret from me again, understood? Hayashi stated sternly. Hinata nodded. The little Hyuga sighed in relief. Not only she didn't lose her mother, but her friendship with Naruto was safe for the time being. She wouldn't have any problem sleeping tonight. Meanwhile, Hayashi couldn't stop thinking about Naruto and how his presence had affected his family. If it wasn't for him, neither Jiraiya nor Tsunade would have come back to Konoha, and thus the Hokage would have never attempted to intimidate the Raikage, and Hisashi would have ended up killing himself to placate Kumigakure. And then there was his wife, would have been dead right now if it wasn't for Tsunade, as well as the fact that her daughter had recently befriended her adoptive son. Then again, he wondered if he would really have allowed Hinata to befriend that boy before. Now he couldn't make an unbiased opinion on Naruto given that he owed him his wife's life. He never thought much about that boy, and the idea of Hinata becoming his friend never crossed his mind not even once. While the Hyuga was one of the most traditionalist clans of Konoha, Hayashi wasn't a superstitious man. He had heard many people say, even those among his clan, that Naruto would only bring bad luck and misfortune to whoever was near him. Sure, the risk of the 9 tails coming out was very real, regardless of how small it was, but Naruto being a bringer of bad luck was just ridiculous. But now, it seemed that the opposite was true. Naruto's presence had saved the lives of 2 of his closest and most beloved people, on top of becoming his daughter's first and only friend. And while her progress in mastering the gentle step was going at a far slower pace than he would have wished, maybe he could convince Naruto to let her join him on his training with the Sannin. But for some reason, Hayashi couldn't shake the thought that all this good fortune had a price tag attached to it, and that one day somebody would ask him to pay. Chapter 7. Desert Winds. Or, why turning your children into weapons is not cool. 7 years after the Kyubi attack. Are we there yet? No. 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 Stop asking that already. Jiraiya yelled in anger. Between the heat and Naruto's constant chattering, he'd swear he'd go insane at any moment. Then he noticed something in the distance, and narrowed his eyes to see it better. Then, he turned to Naruto and said, "Yeah, we are there already. Tsunagakuer is just behind those dunes." Finally, Naruto threw his hands in the air. The heat was downright oppressive, and his thirst was becoming nearly unbearable. He wished he had listened to Jiraiya's advice and didn't drink all the water from his canteen the first day they were in the desert. But after 2 hellish days waddling through an ocean of sand, their journey was already over. After much time, and much stalling on the Kazekige's part, Sarutobi finally managed to convince his Tsunagakuer counterpart to accept the visit of a Konoha diplomat, in order to strengthen the relationship between the two villages, as well as to help with his Jinchuriki problem. While the intention to help was genuine, or else Sarutobi wouldn't have sent Konoha's best seal master alive as its representative. Sarutobi had other less selfless motives behind such action, namely, evaluate the threat said Jinchuriki could pose, as well as the Kazekige's intentions on how he was planning to use him. Jiraiya requested to bring Naruto with him to the mission, believing that having a Jinchuriki who also happened to be a kid of the Suna Jinchuriki's age would help to connect with him. Koharu and Homura vehemently opposed to such thing, since not only it would mean taking Naruto out of the village despite not being a ninja, but bringing him into a foreign village. Sarutobi, however, agreed with Jiraiya's reasoning. Besides, if something happened, Naruto had one of the Sannin taking care of him. Tsunade also opposed her husband's idea, but for different reasons. She felt that Naruto was too young to do such a journey to another village, and all the possible dangers he could face, besides losing academy days. Jiraiya spent a whole hour convincing the Slug Princess that he would make sure that Naruto would return from the trip unscratched, and that Naruto would work extra hard to make up for his absence at the academy. Naruto was elated when Jiraiya informed him about the trip. He had never been outside Konoha's walls, and he was dying to see the world out there. He was amazed by the lush forests of the Land of Fire, which made Naruto wonder why it was called the Land of Fire instead of the Land of Forests, and that such name would only make sense if somebody set those forests on fire. Jiraiya begged Naruto not to try to make their country's name more meaningful and was marveled by the watery landscape of the Land of Rivers. But when they reached the Land of Wind, this place should be called the Land of Unbearable Heat. But fortunately, they arrived at the large rift in the middle of a large stone wall, which was the entrance to Tsunagakuer, flanked by a couple of Tsunachunin. After they verified the Toad Sage's identity, they allowed both him and his son access to the village. The hallway that was the rift was completely covered in shadows, and thus had a much cooler temperature, something both Konoha residents greatly appreciated. After a short walk, they arrived at the village proper. Naruto took some moments to contemplate the village before him. The village was composed almost exclusively by spherical, cylindrical, or conical buildings made of clay. Jiraiya would explain him later that clay was easy to mold and harden fast in a heat climate, making construction work easier and faster. Plus, clay-made buildings, while weaker than brick and concrete buildings like those from Konoha, helped to keep the inside of said buildings cool, and there were none of the abundant plant life that was so common on his home village. Even if it was in the middle of a desert again, Jiraiya would explain him that no plant could live in such place, and thus most plants were kept on greenhouses. They immediately headed towards the Kazekage estate, a massive spherical building with the kanji of wind inscribed on its front, which was placed in the middle of the village. Just like the Hokage Tower in Konoha, not only it was where the current Kazekage worked, but it also doubled as his and his family's residence, should he choose to live there. While Suna looked wildly different from Konoha, the atmosphere was rather identical. Carefree kids played in the streets, traders sold goods, civilians walked through the streets headed to their usual jobs, some ninja patrolled said streets while others watched everything from the building's roofs. Naruto guessed that deep down, most ninja villages were just the same. Kazekige's estate. Jiraiya and Naruto were sitting on a couch on a large room, while they waited for the Kazekage to receive Jiraiya, which, according to the Suna Jonin that received them at the entrance, it should be soon. "So, tell me Naruto, what do you think about Suna? Jiraiya asked, not afraid of a potentially tactless response, since they were alone. It's okay, I guess, but I prefer Konoha. It's really hot in here, and there's no green, Naruto dryly replied. Jiraiya guessed that Naruto wouldn't be very happy there. From an early age, he always had a fondness for plants. He loved to play in their house's garden when he wasn't training, and even had a corner when he was growing some plants. But then again, it could have been the fact that he grew up in a place with trees as far as the eye can see, and the contrast was rather jarring. Have you even been here before? The blonde asked. Yes, multiple times. But this place has hardly changed from the last time I was here. Well, I'm seeing some new power lines, but that's it, Jiraiya mentioned. Do you know the Kaze Cage? I'm afraid not. I met his predecessor once during the Third War, but that's about it. Then he mysteriously disappeared. Weird. Did they think it had something to do with you? Fortunately not. A door opened, and another Suna Jonin, a woman in her 20s with purple marks on her cheeks appeared. Jiraiya-san, Kazekage-sama is waiting for you at his office. About time. Is there a place where Naruto can wait while I'm with the Kaze Cage? Yes. Kazekage-sama said that Naruto-kun can spend the time with his children. I'll take him with them, the Jonin offered. Good, that way Naruto can get closer to the Jinchuriki, Jiraiya thought. Alright Naruto, this might take some time, so be patient, and be nice to the Kazekage's children. Sure thing Dad, Naruto nodded as he saw Jiraiya leaving. Please, come with me Naruto-kun, the female Jonin said, extending her hand at him. Okay, Maki. My name is Maki, the female Jonin replied, smiling a bit. Alright Maki. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. But you already know that, right? Hehe. You're quite a lively child. I'm sure you'll have no problem in making friends with the Kazekage's children. I hope so. Jiraiya entered the Kazekage's office, and saw the man himself, Raza of the Gold Sand, the Kaze Cage, already waiting for him, sitting on his desk with a frown on his face. The Sannin put his best smile, and sat on the only empty chair. Kazekage Dano, is a pleasure to finally meet you, Jiraiya greeted, as cordially as possible. The Sannin, however, was cursing on the inside. He was really good at infiltration and information gathering, but diplomatic affairs were so out of his range of talents. He had to measure his words carefully as not to spark an international incident. Konoha already dodged a shuriken with Kumo, and the last thing he wanted was to unwittingly provoke Suna and made those two villages to ally against Konoha. Jiraiya of the Sannin. While I always wanted to meet a living legend, pleasure isn't the word I'd use. We both know why you are here, and nobody but my Umbu are listening, so you might as well dispense with the pleasantries and go towards the matter at hand. As you wish, Kazekage Dano, Jiraiya replied in a neutral tone. As the Hokage's letter said, I'd like to know the reasons behind creating a Jinchuriki, as well as what do you have planned to do with him. What, are you afraid that we might use him against Konoha? Raza asked, raising an eyebrow. Should I worry about a preventive war? We both know that's not gonna happen, so cut the act, Raza, Jiraiya sharply asserted, and immediately cursed inwardly. Not only he had talked the Kaze Cage in a disrespectful tone, but addressed him by his first name instead of his title. Judging by Raza's expression, he didn't take it well. Act? I'm not the one who's acting, Jiraiya. Since the end of the war Suna has been steadily losing clients to Konoha, including the Wind Lord himself. The disappearance of the third Kaze Cage turned the village into a mess. Defections were a daily occurrence. Bandit attacks over our supply caravans multiplied drastically. And when I made an attempt to recover part of our lost strength, Konoha forces me to accept an emissary demanding information about our internal affairs. We may be allies during the last war, but Konoha had done very little for us after it ended. Hey, we weren't having a great time either. Do I need to remind you that the strongest tailed beast attacked Konoha not even 10 years ago? If you're trying to make me feel sorry for Konoha, then stop it. You're only embarrassing yourself. Jiraiya repressed the urge to yell at the man's face, and breathed heavily. I don't want to do that. The Hokage's concerns lies exclusively over your intentions with the Jinchuriki, and your standing with Konoha. This is the proof I needed that I was doing the right thing. See? Before news that we had a Jinchuriki leaked, nobody gave a shit about us. But after that happened, we have oh so mighty Konoha meekly asking us about our intentions. Alright Jiraiya, you can go back to Konoha and tell this to your Hokage. I will do whatever it takes to make Suna a strong village, and if Konoha, or any other village gets in my way, there will be reprisals. That's a bluff. Jinchuriki or not, Suna lacks the ability to wage war against Konoha, Jiraiya boldly stated. On our own, maybe. But finding allies willing to crush you won't be hard. I heard about what happened with Kumo, you know. And the minor villages aren't too fond of Konoha either. Jiraiya was starting to sweat bullets. This was the kind of stuff he wanted to avert. Fortunately, the meeting wasn't over yet, and the Kazekage didn't hear what Konoha was willing to offer. You misunderstood me, Kazekage Dano. Konoha does not wish to engage in any war with you at the moment. We only want to guarantee that our alliance still stands. Raza raised an eyebrow, and stared at Jiraiya with an amused look. All right. Do you want to hear my demands, or do you have an offering already prepared? The latter. I'd like you to hear what the Hokage had allowed me to bargain with. Such as some S-class secrets that nobody outside Konoha knows. The Kazekage leaned forward. You have my attention. First of all, that Konoha also has a Jinchuriki, which holds the 9 tails, for some years. A kid the same age as your youngest son. So you managed to get something out of that mess. Alright, tell me more about him. He's the blonde kid I brought with me. A deafening silence followed Jiraiya's statement. Raza's eyes opened so wide, the Sannin thought they'd fall out of their sockets. So you sneaked the Jinchuriki of the strongest tailed beast inside my village, without my knowledge. I believe I did that. And is currently in the same building as I am. That is correct. And is in the same room as my own children. Trust me, I guarantee you that neither you, your children or any citizen of Suna is danger. Raza remained surprisingly calm. Do you know that doing such a thing is not a good way to improve the relationship between our villages, right, Jiraiya? Believe me, I had my reasons to bring that kid here. And that would be to help your son. Excuse me if I don't believe you, Jiraiya. You can believe what you want. Listen, I know that the kid is having trouble keeping the tailed beast under control, that's why the Hokage sent me here instead of somebody with actual diplomatic skills. I can tell that whoever did the sealing, he or she made a rather crappy work. I happen to be one of the world's best seal masters, and if you allow me to take a look at the child, I can create a seal that will contain the demon properly. You can consider it a gift from Konoha as token of our goodwill. A tempting offer, Jiraiya, but how do I know that it's not a trick in order to get close to my Jinchuriki? The fact that you have Konoha's Jinchuriki in your grasp. Who also happens to be my adoptive son. Do you think I'd dare to risk his life like that? A ninja should be willing to sacrifice anything, including his loved ones in order to accomplish his goals and destroy his enemies. That's why I had no qualms about turning my kid into a Jinchuriki. That's a grim thought. But then again, I didn't have to bring Naruto here. In fact, I actually took a huge risk doing so. But I did it because I thought it would be very beneficial for both Naruto and your son to meet somebody else with a demon inside, plus you can see the difference between a seal that can hardly contain a tailed beast, and a seal that can contain it properly. The Kazekage crossed his hands below his chin, and stared at Jiraiya intently. I need to think about this. You'll hear my answer tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, both you and that kid will stay here. I'll have somebody prepare a guest room. You're dismissed. Thank you for your time, Kazekage Dano. I'm sure that you'll decide what's best for everybody, Jiraiya said as he stood up and left the office. While the meeting between Jiraiya and the Kazekage took place, Maki brought Naruto to a large room with a long table, a couple couches, some drawers and a few bookshelves. The room's 2 occupants immediately turned their attention to Naruto the moment he entered the place. One was a tall blonde girl with blue eyes and her hair styled in 4 pigtails. The other one was a boy with spiky brown hair and black eyes, who was shorter than the girl. Naruto-kun, These are Tamari-sama and Kankuro-sama, two of Kazekage-sama's children. Tamari-sama, Kankuro-sama, this is Naruto, the son of Konoha's emissary. Naruto walked towards the two kids, extended his hand at an intermediate space between the two of them, and introduced himself with a well-rehearsed line. Hello. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Nice to meet you. It was the girl, Tamari, who took his handshake offer, and gave him a rather strong handshake. Nice to meet you too, Naruto. Welcome to our village, Tamari cordially greeted. I'll leave you alone. If you need me for whatever reason, I'll be outside in the hallway, Maki informed before leaving. An awkward silence followed Maki's departure. Naruto thought it was his responsibility to break it. And he would break it good. So, which one of you two is the Jinchuriki? Naruto asked, blissfully oblivious to his extreme bluntness. Tamari and Kankuro almost choked upon hearing Naruto's question. How do you know? Kankuro stuttered. My dad told me. It was the reason for why we came here, you know. I remember he told me it was his son, so it has to be you, right? Naruto pointed at Kankuro. Actually, the Jinchuriki is our little brother Gaara, Tamari clarified. Where he is then? Naruto asked. As of lately, we barely see him. He spends most of the time with our uncle Yoshimaru. He's helping Gaara control his powers. What Tamari was saying was an S-class secret, but given that Naruto knew about Gaara already, he saw no point in keeping the rest of the details hidden. What a pity. I was dying to meet somebody who's like me, Naruto commented, a bit disappointed. Tamari and Kankuro choked even harder this time. Kankuro looked as if he was going to have a heart attack. Don't tell me you also have a monster sealed inside dash. What the hell? And they left us alone with you. Kankuro yelled. Kankuro! Tamari shouted in a chiding tone. The door slammed open, and Maki burst into the room, kunao in hand. I heard a scream. Is everything alright? Yes, Maki-san, everything's fine. Except my brother, who's still an idiot, Tamari explained as she hit Kankuro on the back of his head. Maki nodded, and left the room once again. It's okay, I got that pretty often. But don't worry, the Nine Tails won't get out of here anytime soon, hehe, Naruto reassured as he patted his belly. In fact, that's why we're here. Dad says he can make a better seal for Gaara so he won't have any trouble controlling his powers. Both siblings looked even more shocked than before. Really? Tamari asked, as her eyes gleamed with a hopeful glint. Can he do that? Naruto nodded and smiled. That would be a gift from heaven. Not only is Gaara getting worse trying to control that monster, but it's also taking a toll on his mind, Kankuro said. Yes. Maybe he will even be able to sleep, Tamari hoped. Wait, he can't sleep? Naruto asked, confused. Tamari shook her head. If he falls asleep, even if it's only a moment, the monster will take over his body and will go on a murderous spree. Only the monster's power keeps Gaara barely functional while permanently awake, but like my brother said, it's doing nothing to help his mind. Let's hope your father can convince ours to let him take a look at Gaara's seal and patch him up somehow, Kankuro added. Anyway, while we wait, what do you want to do? The blonde girl asked. Naruto's eyes darted to the large table, where two wooden dolls with a few strings attached to their body parts laid. The Jinchuriki quickly rushed towards the table and grabbed them. Hey Tamari, are these your dolls? Actually, they're Kankuro's. Really? You play with dolls? Naruto asked, barely holding his laughter. They aren't dolls, they're puppets. Kankuro angrily said as he snatched the puppets from Naruto's hands. They look like dolls to me. Only they look more boring. Though they do have a lot of moving parts. I'll show you the difference between a doll and a puppet, Kankuro growled while attached the strings to his fingers. He then made the puppets to stand on their feet, and made them fight each other. See? It requires skill and lots of dedication, but the results speak from themselves. Whoa, that's so cool. Naruto said, his eyes fixed on the puppets. So you're training to become a performer? Actually, I'm training to become a ninja, and so are my siblings. I'm a ninja too. Naruto proudly claimed. But what puppets have to do with being a ninja? Puppetry is a ninja art too, exclusive from Suna. Some of the deadliest ninja from Suna were puppeteers. Naruto, however, continued staring at him puzzled. You'd understand it better if you saw an actual ninja puppeteer. Their puppets are as big as an adult, and they're full of lethal weapons. What my brother is using is no different from the tools of a street performer, Tamari commented. Well, I have to start somewhere, right? Kankuro protested. I'll be using a puppet before you realize it. Konoha Academy. Even without the Sharingan, Sasuke had no trouble dodging the fist aimed at his face, and with a quick movement, he delivered a low kick at his opponent's legs, making him fall on his back. Sasuke placed his foot on his defeated foe. Winner, Sasuke Uchiha. Cared the teacher overseeing the fight, a tall, fat and broad-shouldered man named Daikoku Funo. Sasuke's fangirls, which were pretty much all his female classmates minus Hinata, burst into a series of loud squeals as they repeated his name ceaselessly. For those near them, it was almost like having a flock of seagulls screeching into their ears. Sasuke himself didn't understand why they got so crazy. Sure, he won, but he was fighting against somebody who telegraphed his attacks a month in advance. Even a blind baby could have won against such unworthy foe. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm starting to miss Naruto. Sure, the guy's loud and obnoxious, but at the very least he made me work for my victories, Sasuke commented. It has been almost a week since Naruto left, and all of a sudden taijutsu practice became infinitely more boring. None of his opponents lasted more than 10 seconds. Daikoku scratched his head. He was really hoping the spar would last a bit longer. Does somebody else wants to spar against Sasuke? All the boys averted their gazes. His question was met with silence. Daikoku then turned at Sasuke with an apologetic smile. I'm sorry then. We'll have to let other people spar for the time being dash. I will spar against him. A high-pitched voice said, making everybody to gasp in unison. Hinata, what are you doing? Sakura asked in disbelief. You can't fight against a boy. I can't. Technically, we usually don't make boys fight girls, but there's nothing written in stone about that. I mean, you will have to fight against a ninja of the opposite gender sooner or later, so we may as well start now, Daikoku commented. He then turned at Sasuke. If it's okay with you. Pass. I'm not going to hit a girl, the Uchiha replied. What's wrong, Uchiha, afraid a girl might kick your ass? Kiba mocked. Well, you didn't volunteer to fight me, so I know that you're afraid that I will kick your ass. This girl has more guts than you, Sasuke retorted, making Kiba snarl in anger. Hinata, why do you want to fight Sasuke? If you want to spar now, I'm sure one of your female classmates will be happy to be your opponent, Daikoku asked. And Naruto-kun always fights Sasuke-san because he says that Sasuke-san is strong, and why you can only get better by fighting strong opponents. I want to get stronger too. Hinata never felt the need to spar against Sasuke. While she meant what she said, Naruto was usually her usual opponent when they trained together outside academy hours. However, she didn't have Naruto for the time being. Alright Hyuga. You get your fight. It can't be worse than my previous 3 fights, Sasuke shrugged as he got into his usual fighting stance. Hinata also slid into the gentle fist stance. Sasuke eyed her opponent, the only girl who wasn't a fangirl of his, but of Naruto's instead. Though then again fangirl was an unfair label. Hinata and Naruto had a genuine friendship. They talked, laughed, and were there for each other. The Uchiha also suspected that the Hyuga had a crush on Naruto, but then again he didn't care much about that stuff. Before the fight began, Hinata activated her Byakugan. Sasuke felt a tinge of jealousy. All the Hyugas awakened their Byakugan when they reached certain age, yet he still didn't awake his Sharingan yet. The fact that his brother awoke it when he was younger than Sasuke is now didn't help. Alright then, begin. Daikoku said, making a chopping motion with his hand. Sasuke and Hinata dashed towards each other. They clashed in the middle, and traded many punches and kicks. For the first few seconds, they successfully parried all the hits, until Suzuki saw an opening and landed a kick on the Hyaga's abdomen, pushing her backwards. "Hinata? Can you continue?" the teacher asked. Hinata nodded in reply. Once again, Hinata dashed towards Suzuki. Suzuki was expecting that, being Hinata the heiress of a rather powerful clan specialized in taijutsu, she'd be a worthy opponent, but nope. Her footwork was sloppy, her attacks slow, and had some trouble remaining focused. After trading a few blows, Suzuki once again sent her to the ground with a well-placed punch to her gut. And once again, Hinata got up. It seemed that what the Hyaga heiress lacked in talent, she made up with sheer determination. It seemed that after all the time they spent together, Naruto was starting to rubbing off on her. This time, thanks to Suzuki getting confident, Hinata managed to land a strike on Suzuki's shoulder, and he felt it as if it was on fire. This is the gentle fist. The Uchiha thought, wincing in pain. This girl is more dangerous than she looks. I'll have to finish this quickly. Suzuki went on the defensive, careful not to let any of those palm strikes from hell to touch him again. He didn't have to wait much for the Hyaga to reveal an opening, and went for the kill. He delivered a series of fast punches to her ribs, and finished with a powerful kick that sent her once again into the ground. Okay, I think that was enough. Winner, Suzuki Uchiha. Daikoku declared. Once again Suzuki's crowd of fangirls cheered furiously. Suzuki ignored them, walked towards Hinata, and extended his hand. Hinata looked at him for a moment, and took his hand, letting him help her back on her feet. Nice fight. You even managed to hit me once. He meant that as a genuine compliment despite being so easy to interpret as a belittlement. Thank you, Suzuki-san. Hinata replied. I knew that I couldn't win, but if I could hit you once at least it would be something. Well, it was certainly more than what the rest of my opponents managed to accomplish, Suzuki said, glancing at the crowd besides him. Okay, I think that was enough for you too, Daikoku intervened. Now do the seal of reconciliation. While Naruto was usually very unwilling to do said seal with Suzuki whenever they sparred, not that Suzuki was any less guilty of such thing, Hinata had no problem. After locking their fingers, they returned to the crowd. Okay, who else wants to show their abilities? Come on, I need 2 new volunteers. Hours later, Suzuki was on his way home, hoping that today he could train with Itaki. Things hadn't been good at home recently. Itaki and their parents would often get into heated arguments that Suzuki couldn't fully understand, but the words duty, honor, clan, family and shame were uttered by both parties. After that, Itaki would usually leave the Uchiha compound and would not return until sunset. However, it appeared that today wasn't going to be one of those days, since Itaki was already waiting for him at the compound's entrance. He was carrying a backpack, and had a suitcase besides him. For some reason, Suzuki had a very bad feeling about that image. Suzuki, you're back. I was hoping you'd be here soon, Itaki greeted his younger brother in a neutral tone. Nii-san. What are you doing with that suitcase? Are you going somewhere? Suzuki asked, afraid of the possible answer. I'm afraid yes, Suzuki. I had an argument with father and mother again, the worst one so far, and they just disowned me. I'm no longer Itaki Uchiha, just Itaki. What? Suzuki couldn't believe his brother's words. I just wanted to see you before I left this place. I wanted you to know this from me than from our parents. And most importantly, I wanted to say goodbye. But, you can't leave. Suzuki cried, tears almost forming in his eyes. You are my brother. Itaki kneeled before Suzuki. Listen me, Suzuki. Uchiha or not, disowned or not, there are 2 things that nothing will ever change, the fact that you're still my brother, and that I love you. But, I don't want you to go. Suzuki cried again. I know you don't want to. Being away from you is the most painful part of this mess. But father and mother don't want me being part of the clan anymore, and honestly, I can't live under the same roof as them either. But you can't leave. Suzuki repeated. Let's go and talk with father and mother. I'm sure that whatever happened, we can fix it. Itaki smiled sweetly at his little brother. My little brother, you're still so innocent. Unfortunately, the reason for my banishment is way too complex for you to understand yet. But, what are you going to do now? I already rented an apartment. I'll bring you there so you can see it once I'm settled. Now you have to be strong, Sasuke. Keep working hard on being a ninja like you have done so far. Make me feel proud of calling you my brother. Sasuke didn't say anything, just stayed there, crying. Itachi then pulled him into a hug. The Uchiha prodigy then stood up, grabbed his luggage, and left the place that he had called home for all his life. After watching his brother disappear, Sasuke spent some more minutes there, motionless. Then, he returned to his house. He didn't greet his parents like he usually did. He didn't even demand for explanations as for why they had kicked out Itachi from the clan. He merely went to his room, and locked himself there. He dropped on his bed, and cried his eyes out until he ran out of tears, and finally fell asleep. Kazekage Estate, next morning. Shortly after Jiraiya and Naruto woke up, Maki the Suna Jonin entered the guest room they had slept in order to inform them that the Kazekage had invited them to have breakfast with him and his family. She also informed that Gaara would be there. Alright, that's good, Jiraiya said, confident, as he started to get dressed. Why is that good, Dad? Naruto asked. The Kazekage is rather protective of Gaara, given that he wasn't with his siblings, and has a personal caretaker. The fact that he's willing to have Gaara present means that he trusts us to some degree, and maybe he will accept my offer of fixing his seal. If everything goes as planned, not only we will help that poor kid, but we'll secure an alliance with Tsunagakuer. Meanwhile, in the estate's dining room, Raza and his two elder children were sitting on a large, rectangular table, waiting for their guests and remaining family to join them. So, Dad, are you going to let Naruto's father fix Gaara's seal? Temari asked with hopeful eyes. I'm not comfortable with the idea, but it appears to be the best solution so far. Gaara has a lot of trouble controlling the demon. If this Naruto you talk about is proof of the man's sealing ability, by the way, are you sure he was a Jinchuriki? Raza asked. He showed us his seal. It appeared to be the real thing. Only Jinchuriki have stuff like that, Kankuro commented. Well, we will learn the truth soon, Raza said. The room's door opened, revealing Jiraiya and Naruto, escorted by Maki. After being thanked, the Suna Jonin left. So, what's for breakfast? Because I'm so hungry. Do you guys have ramen here? Naruto asked excitedly. Who the hell eats ramen for breakfast? Kankuro asked in disgust. You'll have to excuse Naruto. He gets rather out of control with an empty stomach, Jiraiya said, laughing nervously as he and Naruto took a seat. Jiraiya, these are Temari and Kankuro, my oldest children, Raza motioned to the two kids at his sides, then he fixed his eyes on Naruto. And I believe that this is the Jinchuriki, right? Your son Naruto. Yup, that's me. Remember that name, because when the old man retires, I'll be the next Hokage. Naruto proudly claimed. Raza couldn't help but chuckle. The kid had some big ambitions, too big, some might say. Before Naruto could reply, the door opened again, and a redhead child entered the room followed by an adult. The child, who appeared to be Naruto's age, had short blood red hair and black rings around his blue eyes. The adult, both Jiraiya and Naruto guessed it was Gaara's caretaker, had shoulder length, sandy blonde hair and purple eyes. Ah, we're all finally here, Raza mentioned. Sorry for the tardiness, Kazekage-sama, the adult said as he and Gaara walked towards the table. It's okay, Yoshimaru. I know that taking care of Gaara is not an easy job. Fortunately, one of our guests might make that task easier. Or so he says. Why is that woman called Yoshimaru? Isn't that a male name? And who is this woman, by the way? Didn't you guys say that your uncle was taking care of Gaara? Naruto asked. Temari and Kankuro could barely repress their laughs, while Raza glared at him, annoyed. Yoshimaru merely smiled. I have a male name because I am a man. And yes, I am Gaara's uncle. But yes, my looks makes others to mistake me for a woman, it has happened before. Wait. You're a guy. Naruto shouted in shock. Then he turned at Temari. Wait a minute, you're a girl, right? Of course I am. Don't I look like one? Tamari harshly replied, visibly offended. Well, so does this guy. Naruto protested, making Kankuro to laugh even harder. Jiraiya face-palmed. Naruto was the nightmare of every diplomat. Fortunately for them, neither Rasen nor Yoshimaru were taking his antics seriously. Gaara, Raza said, fixing his eyes on his youngest son. These are Jiraiya and Naruto. They have come from Konoha to meet you. Gaara looked at Jiraiya with impassible eyes, and then looked at Naruto. I see, was all what he said. Gaara, do you notice something special about this kid? Raza asked, and waited expectantly at his son's response. Gaara parsimoniously walked to Naruto, and inspected him. So far, there was nothing remarkable about that boy except for how loud and obnoxiously cheerful he was. And then, he felt a shiver. Father, there's something inside this kid, something Mother doesn't like. Mother wants to kill this child. Gaara grimly commented. The blonde almost jumped out of his chair. Hey, what the hell did I do to your mother? Naruto protested. So it is true, your son is a Jinchuriki, Raza concluded, mildly fascinated. Yet he looks so normal. Of course I am normal. I might have a demon inside me, but that doesn't change who I am. I already told you that Naruto is the difference between a good seal and a shoddy one, Jiraiya interjected. Can he access to the demon's power? Raza asked again. Yes, thought I'm not going to teach Naruto how to use it until he's older. A foolish decision. For a Jinchuriki to reach his potential, they should be trained to control their demon as soon as possible, Raza replied. He still struggles to control his own chakra, so I don't want to take an unnecessary risk and put him in danger. Whatever, Raza dismissed with a wave of his hand. So if you fix Gaara's seal, Gaara will have access to the demon's power without losing control, right? Exactly. If that's the case, then you have my permission to do it. Excellent. Then, this is all what I need to start the process. First, a safe room to work in, then. Many hours later. The process was hard and exhausting, mostly because a shield of sand would often appear at random times, interfering with the sealing process. A byproduct of the tailed beast, Jiraiya had guessed. Though Gaara said that, according to his uncle, it was his mother's spirit protecting him. On top of that, he had to work while two Suna Jonin watched him intently. Jiraiya had demanded the two ninja to leave, but they weren't going to leave the Kazekige's son and the village's Jinchuriki alone with a foreign ninja. After much work, Jiraiya had replicated the four-symbol seal that kept the Nine Tails prisoner inside Naruto on Gaara, and he removed the shoddy seal that could barely contain the tailed beast. Both of them exited the room, and Asuna Chunin escorted both of them towards a room where Raza, his children, Yoshimaru, and Naruto were waiting for them. The process is finished. It has been a success, Jiraiya announced, smiling. Gaara, however, remained impassible. Great. I knew you could do it, Dad. Naruto cheered. Those are some great news indeed, Yoshimaru commented, smiling. The Kazekage took a step forward. Gaara, how do you feel? I can't hear Mother anymore. But other than that, I feel good, Gaara answered. I see. Let's do some tests and see if Jiraiya's handiwork is as good as he claims to be, okay? Raza asked. Gaara, lie on this couch. I'll use a genjutsu to make you sleep. But you told me that I should never sleep. Gaara calmly replied. I know. But if Jiraiya's seal works as intended, you should be able to, Raza explained, motioning to the couch. Gaara nodded, and did as his father asked. Raza cast the genjutsu, and Gaara fell to sleep. Nothing happened. 5 minutes passed. Nothing happened. 10 minutes passed. Nothing happened. It's amazing. Gaara is sleeping and the demon isn't taking over. Jiraiya, you're incredible. Tamari gushed, completely elated. I never get tired of hearing that, Jiraiya replied with a foxy grin. Your work is indeed worth its praise, Jiraiya, Raza conceded. Though I still want to do one more test. Do all the tests you want, the results won't vary, Jiraiya said, confident. Raza rocked Gaara until he woke up. "Father, I was asleep, did something happen?" Gaara asked, a bit worried. "Nothing. The seal worked. But I want you to do one more thing for me. Go to the door, please," Raza instructed. Gaara nodded, and did as he was told. Once there, he turned towards his father. "I'm on the door. What should I do?" Gaara was interrupted when he saw his father tossing several kunao at him. The redhead kid yelped and instinctively raised his arms in self-defense. Fortunately for him, a wall of sand formed between him and the bladed weapons, protecting him from any harm. Gaara was pale with shock. Raza seemed pleased. Everybody else were dumbfounded. "What the hell?" Naruto asked, almost in a whisper. "Good. He still has the sand." "You were good on your word, Jiraiya," Raza said, satisfied. "You threw a kunao at your son's face." Jiraiya whispered, shocked. His shock then turned into anger. "You threw a kunao at your son's face. What the hell is wrong with you?" "I needed to check if Gaara had still access at the demon's power," Raza replied. His voice was completely devoid of regret. "And what if that wasn't the case? You could have killed him. But I didn't. Stop fretting over that already. It belongs to the past." "To the past? It happened just now." Raza decided to ignore Jiraiya's protests. "The seal worked as you promised, and in the name of my village I thank you for that. You can now go back to your village and tell your Hokage that he has nothing to fear. Suna and Konoha will remain allies for the foreseeable future." Jiraiya glared at the Kaze cage, and muttered a curse under his breath. "Naruto, go and pack your stuff. We will leave tomorrow morning." "What, so soon? But we've been only here 2 days. And I barely got to know Gaara." "Naruto, we came here to do a job, and said job is done. There's nothing here left for us, so we must return. Besides, I promised both the Hokage and your mother then we will be back as soon as possible." "Okay." Naruto said, dejected. Once again, Jiraiya and Naruto were invited to have dinner with the Kaze cage and his family. Jiraiya declined the invitation, but encouraged Naruto to go so he could spend at least some more time with the Kazecage's children, especially Gaara. The Kaze cage finished his dinner quickly and left the dining room, claiming he still had some things to do, leaving the kids alone under the watch of a couple Suna Jonin. "Tell your father that I thank him for what he did for me. It's good to know that I won't hurt people unwittingly again," Gaara spoke up. "Yeah, I will," Naruto replied as he stuffed his mouth with food. "You're welcome. By the way, since you're like me, does people treat you differently?" Gaara asked. "Differently? Oh, I think what you mean, if they act as if I'm going to go insane and try to kill them or something?" the blonde boy asked. Gaara nodded. "Sadly yes. Do people in Suna treat you like that?" "Yes." "What? But you're like, the son of the Kaze cage. They should treat you with more respect." Sure, Naruto was also the son of a Hokage, but in his case, very few people knew that, as it was an S-class secret. Gaara's parentage was public knowledge. Actually, it doesn't matter much. They can only see the potential danger he represents. Though I can blame them, given that there has been quite a few incidents when Gaara lost control of the monster, Temari commented. "Good thing you and your dad came here. Now maybe we can convince people that Gaara won't harm them anymore," Kankuro added. Well, I don't think their opinions will change much. If this village is anything like mine, they'll continue avoiding Gaara like he's the plague. That's what they do to me at least, Naruto mentioned, a bit sad. Gaara looked thoughtful. "I see then. How do you cope with it?" "Truth be told, sometimes I want to yell at them. To make them realize that they have nothing to fear from me. That whatever happened in Konoha 7 years ago won't happen again," Naruto explained, bitterness leaking through his words. Then he smiled. "But not everybody is like that. I have mom and dad, and Shizune-nichan, and Hagane-chan and Kaida-chan, and Hinata, and as long as I have them, I don't care what other people think. Then should I stop trying to get everybody else to acknowledge me?" the redhead asked. "What? No, of course not," you deserve to be respected. It's just, don't feel too bad if they don't do now. If you ever feel down, you should go to the people who likes you. Your dad is kind of an asshole, Naruto blurted, then he gasped upon realizing what he said, turned towards Kankuro and Temari and smiled bashfully. No offense. None taken, Kankuro replied. Temari just nodded. But you have your aunt, I mean uncle, and your brother and your sister are pretty cool, and I'm sure they'll help you deal with this crap. Naruto motioned at Kankuro and Temari. Both of them smiled sweetly. Yeah, I mean, we don't see each other much, but that's going to change soon. Kankuro declared. And if our father has a problem with that, well, he'll have to deal with it. Temari added. Thank you, to both of you, it means a lot to me, Gaara said. Naruto smiled at him. By the way, Gaara, what's all that talk about your mother? I thought that she died when you were born. Uncle said that the sand that protects me from harm is the spirit of my mother. Sometimes I hear voices in my head urging me to punish those who wrong me, but since your father reinforced my seal, I can't hear her anymore. Naruto remembered a conversation he had with his parents when he was 4. They told him that, if he ever heard a voice inside his head, he should tell them immediately. They didn't elaborate any further, leaving the blonde boy rather confused. It became much clearer once he learned the truth about the 9 tails being sealed inside him. Actually, that's not your mother, but the monster they sealed inside you. Oh. Gaara looked dejected. But that doesn't mean that your mom isn't with you. My parents tell me that since my birth parents died to protect me, their spirits will be always watching over me, protecting me in mysterious ways. I'm sure your mom will protect you and your siblings as well. Naruto quickly added. That's a comforting thought. I never thought that my real mother would want me to harm others. Of course not. People like us exist to protect others from these monsters. And that's what I want to do when I grow up. I'm going to be Hokage so everyone will know that I'm protecting my village. That sounds nice. Maybe I should try to become Kazekage too. And you will be the best Kazekage there is. And we will be there to support you, little bro, Temari added. Kankuro nodded. The 4 kids continued talking and laughing until it was time for all of them to go to bed. During the trip back to Konoha, Naruto would tell Jiraiya how much fun he had during the time he spent with the Sand Siblings, as he nicknamed them. That moment Jiraiya knew that the alliance between Konoha and Suna would last for many decades, but it would be thanks to Naruto's unwitting efforts. Konoha. Itachi, formerly known as Uchiha, studied his new home, a 3-room apartment consisting on a bedroom, a small kitchen, and a bathroom. It was a huge step down from his rather cozy home in the Uchiha compound, but it was enough for him. Due to having so few personal belongings, he took almost no time to settle in. While Itachi had done a myriad of B-rank and A-rank mission, the former Uchiha was penniless. When you're part of a big clan, all the money from missions goes to the clan fund. The clan head, or a designated treasurer, would manage the fund and use it to cover the clan's expenditures, such as food, clothes, weapons, water, and electricity. Adult clansmen had a small allowance that they could spend however they pleased. Most of them used said allowance to buy things for their children. Naturally, Itachi didn't get any money from said fund, so he had to ask for a small loan to the Konoha Bank. Fortunately, his reputation as a young ninja prodigy was enough guarantee for the bank. He had used that money to buy food, some clothes, a stock of weapons, and to pay the first month of the rent. The loaned money would run out soon, and the bank would demand the money back just as soon, so he needed to do well-paid missions as soon as possible. Fortunately, the third would have no problem with it. Lying on his bed, Itachi couldn't help but wonder if he did the right thing. Maybe he should have tried a bit harder to convince his parents to drop the hostilities with the Konoha higher UPS. Maybe he should have become an Umbu and use his position as a mediator. His exhaustion beat his troubling thoughts, and the disowned Uchiha soon fell asleep, unable to shake the thought that something terrible was going to happen soon. Chapter 8. The Calm Before the Storm. Or Elementary Elements. 8 years after the Kyuubi attack. It was a warm Saturday morning. Flowers were blooming, birds were singing, and the sky was clear. So while he waited for the daily training session with one of her parents, Naruto decided to spend some time on one of his hobbies besides training and eating ramen, gardening. Shizun bought him some new seeds from the Yamanaka flower shop, and he was planting them on his corner of the backyard. Helping him were his two 4-year-old siblings, Hagane and Kaida. Both of them had inherited Jiraiya's spiky white hair and Tsunade's brown eyes. Though Hagane usually had a short haircut, while Kaida had it styled into 2 long pigtails. Alright, now that you have put the seeds in the holes, you must cover the holes with soil again, Naruto instructed as the twins did so. And then what, Naizen? Kaida asked. Then you come every day and water the seeds. In a few weeks, it will grow a plant with really pretty flowers. Ah, but I wanted to see the flowers now. Kaida complained. Maybe if we water them more, they'll grow faster. Hagane wondered. Nice try, but it doesn't work that way, hehe. Okay, wait here, I'm going to get the watering can, Naruto said as he went back to the house. He returned back with a full watering can, and he almost dropped it in shock. What the hell? Naruto was in shock. Besides a smiling Kaida and a surprised Hagane, there was an almost full-grown bush of white roses. Look at this, Naizen. I told the flowers to grow already, and they did. The little girl said proudly. Whoa, it's almost like the first Hokage. Naruto shouted, amazed. Who? Both twins asked in unison. The first Hokage. Your great-grandpa. He had the power to make plants grow super fast, but none of his children inherit that power. Maybe you did. Really? That's so cool. I'm going to grow more flowers then. Maybe I have that power too. Hagane wondered as he tried to emulate his sister. I have to tell Mom and Dad. Naruto excitedly stated as he rushed back inside. Mom. Dad. Get over here. You're not going to believe this. Naruto pretty much ignored the Sannin's protests as he dragged them, followed by Shizun, to the backyard, where the twins were trying to make more plants to grow. Naruto, please, I can walk on my own. Tsunade protested. What's so important that got you so riled up? Jiraiya asked. Look at that. Naruto pointed out towards the white rose bush. Those are some nice roses, but I don't think they're impressive enough to be worth getting dragged here, Tsunade deadpanned. I don't mean that. I planted those roses 5 minutes ago, and Kaida made them grow. You mean that she has power over plants? Like the first Hokage? Jiraiya asked. Exactly. Naruto exclaimed. Come on sis, show them. Kaida nodded, and tried to make another white rose to grow. Come on, grow. 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 Kaida piped as she motioned her arms at the ground, without any visible effects. Oh come on, it worked just now. Jiraiya shook his head. Come on Naruto, the kids pranked you. While I admit that bush wasn't there yesterday, there's no way they have the power of the wood release. No. I have the power. And I'll show it to you. Grow. Kaida ordered, her face turning red as she tried to channel the power she thought she had. Come on sis, I know you can do it. Hagane encouraged as he patted her on the back. The moment Hagane touched Kaida, something inside her changed. She felt an overwhelming force coming from within, and almost unwittingly, channeled said force outside through her extended arms. Another white rose bush emerged from the ground, except this one grew to be twice as big and lush as the first one. Tsunade's necklace shined with such an intense glow it was comparable to the sun. Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Shizun's jaws dropped, and their eyes opened so wide they appeared to pop out of their socket. They remained in a state of stupor until Naruto snapped out of them. I can't believe it. Tsunade babbled, almost in a whisper. Tsunade-sama, this is... Shizun stuttered. Jiraiya was also shocked, but then he smiled wide. Haha, did you see that? My genes are so good, they awakened a long-lost bloodline limit. Jiraiya. Tsunade whispered, ignoring the Toad Sage's remark. When Hagane touched Kaida, you felt something, didn't you? Yes. Something similar to nature chakra, Jiraiya replied. Kaida, when Hagana touched you, what did you feel? I felt, being full of energy. And so strong. Like I've been sleeping for a whole week. It felt amazing. The little girl said. Hagane, honey, give me your hand, Tsunade instructed as she crouched in front of her younger son. Hagane did so, and Tsunade's necklace glowed once more. None of the presents were sensors, but they could felt Tsunade's chakra dramatically increasing all of a sudden, manifesting in the form of a blue aura flaring around her. Jiraiya also noticed the bit of nature chakra there. The effect vanished once they stopped holding hands. Tsunade stood up, with a dazzling look on her face. When Hagana touched me, I felt my chakra reserves growing so much, I thought I wouldn't be able to hold them. This is incredible. Wait a minute, we all touched Hagana many times before. Why he didn't have this effect until now? Shizun asked. I don't know, maybe it was dormant until something triggered it. Jiraiya guessed. Like what? Like, Kaido making those plants grow. Naruto asked. I mean, you told me about twins having some sort of invisible special connection. What if Hagana couldn't awake this power until Kaido awakened hers? It's a possibility, Jiraiya conceded. By the way, Tsunade, I think that this might be the reason as for why your necklace glows so much when it's near either of them. It is possible that the first chakra of the necklace somehow influenced them since the moment they were, conceived. Shizun asked. That's an interesting theory, but we'll have to wait to see if it's true or not. I'm going to check the twins now to see the extent of their abilities. As for the time being, I don't want anybody else to learn about this, understood? What? But Kaido just developed a bloodline limit which was thought to be lost. And Hagane has some freaky power too. We have to tell the Hokage at least. Naruto protested. Shizun stepped in. Naruto-kun, keep in mind that the power of the first Hokage has been sought by many people. If there was a rumor that Tsunade-sama and Jiraiya-sama's kids had manifested that power, then they would be in great danger. Do you understand that? Yes, Shizun-nichan. I didn't think of that, Naruto admitted, as he rubbed the back of his head. Which means that you two shouldn't use those powers out of this house, and only with an adult present, understood? Tsunade said to the twins. Kaido went to protest. But dash. No buts, Kaido. Tsunade's tone did not leave room for replies. All right, Mom. The white-haired girl conceded in defeat. You two, come with me for a medical check. Jiraiya, why don't you take Naruto out for some training? Training Ground 3. While Tsunade inspected the twins, Jiraiya tooled Naruto to their usual training spot. Alright Naruto, let's review your ninjutsu repertoire. First use the clone jutsu, Jiraiya instructed. Naruto nodded, made the necessary hand seals, and channeled his chakra. Clone jutsu. Naruto shouted, and 4 perfect copies of himself appeared at both sides. Yay. Alright, that jutsu gave you some trouble, but it seems that your chakra control is getting better, Jiraiya mentioned. Now, transformation. Dispelling the clones, Naruto nodded again, and turned into Shizun. Jiraiya gave a nod of approval, and Naruto returned to normal. And lastly, the body replacement. Naruto made the hand seals, this time much faster, and disappeared in a cloud of smoke, leaving a large rock in his place. Naruto then appeared behind Jiraiya. Excellent, Jiraiya approved, turning around, already aware of his godson being there. Those are the 3 academy ninjutsu you need to master if you want to graduate. As you can see, piece of cake when you have such an awesome teacher as me. Wait, does that mean that I can graduate already? Naruto said in realization, starry-eyed. I said that those 3 jutsus are necessary to pass, not the only thing you need. But yeah, I'm sure that you'd be good to graduate in 2 years. Yay. Take that Sasuke. I'm going to graduate 2 years before you. Whoa there, don't get yourself carried away. You're not going to skip any academy year. What? But why? If I already know what they teach at the academy, going there is a waste of time. You have a point. But I'm not teaching you everything the academy does. Stuff like maths, physics, biology, and geography might not seem useful for a ninja at first, but they are. That's why the academy is still important. If that wasn't the case, I wouldn't bother sending you there. Besides, I'm going to have a talk with the Hokage and see if he can do something about making the academy curriculum a bit more challenging. I mean, a ninja needs more than the 3 basic E-rank jutsus to do their job. They don't even teach tree walking. Besides, I want to teach you other abilities that will take some time. And that would be sealing jutsus, some more advanced ninjutsu, being able to dispel genjutsus, and if possible, control of the 9 tails chakra. It's my goal to make sure you gain some level of mastery over those abilities before you graduate. I see. No matter what you decide to throw at me or how hard the academy gets, I'll pass with flying colors. Naruto claimed, pumping his fist. Boy, that inner fire is something every teacher wants to see in his students, Jiraiya smiled. Alright kid, now that you showed me what you're capable of, I think that I can fulfill your request. Yes. Elemental ninjutsu. Last week, Sasuke, who for some reason had become incredibly cranky since the previous year, showed everybody that he had learned the great fireball jutsu. Even if he was far from completely mastering it, Naruto had to admit that it was pretty cool. From that day onwards, Naruto begged her parents to teach him elemental ninjutsu. And now the gap between him and Sasuke would close once more. Jiraiya then produced a small light brown rectangular paper. This is a litmus paper. It is used to determine your elemental affinity. You channel chakra into the paper, and based on how it reacts you can determine your affinity. For example, Jiraiya did as he explained, and the paper started to burn. My affinity is fire, so the paper burns when it's in contact with my chakra. Fire is the most common affinity on this land, hence its name. Now dash. Gimme gimme. Naruto hastily took another litmus paper from Jiraiya's hands. He channeled his chakra, and the paper split in 2. Aw damn it. Give me another, I think broke this one. Calm down, Naruto. The paper didn't break. If the paper cuts in 2, then it means you have an affinity for wind. Which is the least common affinity of all nations, even in the land of wind. Awesome. I have a rare affinity, unlike Sasuke who has fire like everybody else. Naruto cheered, then he realized that Jiraiya also had a fire affinity. Sorry dad, I didn't mean to dash. It's okay. But don't get all excited, having a rare affinity does have its downsides. Really? Like what? Since there are so few people with wind affinity, that means less people who can teach you, and less people creating new jutsus. I believe that there's only another wind user in Konoha, one of the sons of Sarutobi-sensei. I think I could get him to teach you some of the advanced stuff. But for the time being, let's stick to something simple. Jiraiya walked to a tree and plucked a leaf from one of its branches. He then handed that leaf to Naruto. I want you to use your chakra to cut that leaf in 2, just like you did with the paper. What? Why? Naruto asked, puzzled. Jiraiya sighed. Your mother and I told you this a million times. Before learning the cool stuff as you so eloquently put it, you need to learn the basics first. And this exercise will help you mold wind chakra. What, did you expect that I was going to teach you how to produce a tornado or something like that? Well, yes. I mean, Sasuke can create fireballs, and I need something to counter that if I am to beat him. Actually, that wouldn't be a good idea. And why not? Because elemental chakra is like rock paper scissors. Just like how rock beats scissors but gets beaten by paper, some elements are weak against some and strong against others. In your case, wind is strong against lightning, but weak against fire. If you try to counter Sasuke's fire jutsus with wind jutsus, you will only make his attacks stronger. Then I'm never going to beat him. Naruto whined, depressed, as he fell on his knees. Don't say that. You can learn water jutsus as well if you want. But you said that my affinity is wind. Yes, but that means that wind jutsus will be more powerful, consume less chakra and will be easier to learn. You can learn jutsus from all 5 basic elements. Think of it as the use of your arms. Your right arm is the dominant one, but that doesn't mean that you can use your left arm as well, but you use the right one more because you have more dexterity. Then teach me water jutsus instead. No. You have to learn jutsus of your elemental affinity first. Once you have that down, you can master the element that counters the element you are weak against. For example, after mastering fire, I learned earth jutsus, since earth beats water, which beats fire. I see, man, this is far more complicated than I thought. Naruto realized, rubbing the back of his head. Of course it is. Why do you think I don't want you to graduate too early? I want you to be properly prepared once you go out there to fight the bad guys. By the way, you have fire, but what affinity do Mom and Shizun Nichan have? Your mother has lightning, and Shizun has water. And since Kaida has wood release, which is a combination of earth and water, those elements are her affinity. What, it is possible to have more than one affinity? Yes, but outside bloodline limits, they're extremely rare, even more than people with wind affinity. Now come on, I won't teach you any new jutsu unless I see you cutting that leaf with your chakra. The key is to try to compress your chakra into a blade as fine as possible. Right. Naruto said, as he fixed his stare on the leaf on his hands, and channeled his chakra. Meanwhile, in the forests of Konoha's outskirts, two figures were having a talk, covered by the tree's lush foliage. Both of them were teenagers with dull black hair and black eyes, wearing headbands of Konohagakure. One of them was also wearing the symbol of the Uchiha clan on the back of his t-shirt. So, how things are going, Shisui? The first figure asked. It was as you feared, Itachi. It was way beyond a rumor. The Uchiha are indeed planning to stage a coup. I don't know when, but it will be soon. Very soon, Shisui grimly noted. Itachi cursed inwards. Our time is running out. What about that investigation that Jiraiya-sama is conducting? Even if the true culprit of the Nine Tails attack was found, it is too late. The damage was done the moment Danzo put the Uchiha clan under surveillance. I'm afraid that there's nothing stopping the coup. If such things happen, it will be an open invitation for the other villages to declare a war on us. What can we do? I already have a plan. There's a meeting tonight of all the Uchiha members at the Naka Shrine. I believe that Fugaku-sama will make the coup official, and reveal what he has planned. What he doesn't know, however, is that I will be there and I will use my Koda Amatsukami on him and make him convince the clan to rebuild the burned bridges with the village. I already have the third's approval, Shisui explained. Do you think it will work? If you're caught, you will die on the spot. I know it will. Besides, I can't die yet, not without convincing Shizun-san on going on a date with me first, Shisui added, chuckling. Itachi returned the smile. I believe you'll need to use your Koda Amatsukami on her for that to happen. Itachi's face became serious again. But take care. Once you're done, meet me at my apartment, and we'll discuss what to do next. Yes. See you this night, Itachi, Shisui said before disappearing. Good luck, Shisui. Let's hope everything goes right. Little did the two rogue Uchihas knew that a third Sharingan wielder, hidden in the shadows, had listened their entire conversation. Shortly after finishing his training session with Naruto, Jiraiya was confronted by an Umbu who told him that the Hokage requested his presence for an urgent mission. In no time, he arrived at the Hokage's tower, and entered Sarutobi's office through one of the windows. Jiraiya, is the door too much of a hassle to you? Sarutobi asked in a deadpan tone. Sorry, sensei, but you said that it was urgent, Jiraiya replied as he jumped inside the office. All right, sit down, Sarutobi instructed with a weary sigh. Jiraiya, there is no need for you to continue your investigation of the Kyuubi attack. Jiraiya was taken aback by such words. What? Why? I'm afraid that it won't do any good now. According to my sources, the Uchiha clan has been planning a coup d'état for the past couple years. They will stage it sometime during this week. Jiraiya couldn't believe what he was hearing. And why are we still here, doing nothing? We have to stop that from happening. I already have a plan in motion, Jiraiya, don't worry. The coup won't come to pass, I made sure of it. Jiraiya wasn't convinced, but decided to not to pressure the issue. I see. The Umbu who contacted me said you had a mission for me. Correct. You see, from the past few months onwards, the demand of A-rank and S-rank missions had increased dramatically. I fail to see how that's a bad thing. More income for the village. Yes, but I believe that there's something more to this. This amount of high-ranked missions is unseen in times of peace. An S-rank mission means an S-rank threat. If there are so many S-rank missions requests, well, you do the math. And some of the mission requesters mentioned men in black cloaks with red clouds on them. Akatsuki. Exactly. They began their move already, whatever it is. Your mission will be to find out what they're trying to accomplish with this. Are you afraid that they're doing this in order to bring our best ninja out of the village walls so they can be killed off one by one with ease? It is one of the possibilities, yes, but not the only one. Alright, I'll meet some of my spies and see what they have. You'll receive a report from me shortly, Jiraiya said as he disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Sarutobi knew that he didn't convince Jiraiya about the coup being already over. Truth be told, he wasn't convinced either, but he had to trust Shisui. He had seen his abilities in action, and he knew that he could pull it off. Still, the old Hokage couldn't shake off the feeling that this was the last time he would see the Toad Sannin. It took him 2 hours and an inordinate amount of effort, but Naruto had finally cut the goddamned leaf. When Naruto asked Jiraiya if he was ready now to learn wind jutsus, Jiraiya pretty much laughed in his face, and told him that in order to be ready, he'll have to cut that leaf in less than 10 seconds. At this rate, he was never going to surpass Sasuke. Still, Naruto knew perfectly what would get his mood up, some ramen with his best friend. Now, if a random kid barged into the Hyuga compound, he would be swiftly kicked out by the branch house members that guarded its gates. And if Naruto tried to do that a couple years ago, they wouldn't even let him to get close to the place. But when your mother has saved the wife of the clan head from a certain death, well, let's say that the Hyugas start to show you some respect. Good afternoon, Naruto-san. Coming to see Hinata-sama. Greeted a branch house Hyuga who was guarding the gates. The Hyuga had shoulder-length, spiky brown hair with 2 long bangs framing either side of his face. It would be easy to mistake him for a woman. Hello to you too, Takuma. Yeah, you nailed it. I just came from a hard training session, and I was heading for Ichiraku's and wondered if Hinata could join me. Hinata-sama is currently training with Hayashi-sama as well. Though I believe they'll finish soon. You can go and see her train while you wait, if you wish. Yeah, I'll do that, thank you, Takuma, Naruto said as he entered the compound. After asking for directions he often got lost in the large compound. Naruto finally arrived at the main dojo, where he saw Hinata, dressed in a dark blue long-sleeved shirt and knee-long dark blue pants sparring against another Hyuga, a male or so he thought. After meeting Yoshimaru he wasn't so sure anymore, who appeared to be both older and way more skilled than her. Naruto's presence was acknowledged by the other Hyuga present with a silent nod. One of them, a woman with long dark purple hair, signaled him to sit next to her. Naruto complied. Good afternoon, Hikari-san, Naruto greeted as he sat beside the woman. Welcome to our home, Naruto-kun. Did you come here to see my daughter? Hikari asked. Yeah, I wanted to ask her if she would want to go with me to Ichiraku's and grab some ramen, but I see she's busy now. She's close to finish her daily training. I'm sure she'd love to eat with you. Hinata lost her focus the moment Naruto entered the dojo, blushing the moment she saw the blonde smiling at her. This moment of distraction made left her wide open for her opponent to knock her down with a swift palm strike. Don't get distracted. In a real fight, if you get distracted, you die. Come on, stand up and come at Niji again. Hayashi chided in a reprimanding tone. Why yes father. Hinata bumbled as she stood up and dashed at her adversary again. They traded blows once again, except this time Hayashi noticed that she was more focused and her attacks were far more aggressive. As if suddenly this spar became a death match with her life on the line. Yet the only thing that changed was that Naruto had entered the room. Did that kid have some effect on her daughter? Meanwhile, Naruto continued watching Hinata spar. Wow, that kid fights pretty hard, Naruto commented to no one in particular. Indeed. Niji-kun has quite some talent. Some believe that in a few years he will become the strongest Hyuga alive, surpassing even my husband, Hikari whispered to him. But don't tell him I said that, he has quite the ego already. By the way, is Niji a guy? Hikari chuckled. Yes, yes he is. Does he look like a girl? Well, it's that I met some guys who look like women. And many of them were Hyagas. Well, yes. Many Hyagas have rather feminine looks. Not every Hyaga can have the luck to have my Hayashi's handsome manly features. There was a collective gasp when Hinata managed to land a hit on the Hyaga prodigy. Way to go, Hinata. Kick his ass. Naruto cheered in a whisper. He remembered the first time the loudly cheered her, and was reprimanded by the rest of Hyaga for almost half an hour for his noisy behavior. I think I'll bring you here whenever Hinata-chan has to train. She fights with far more spunk whenever you're present, Hikari observed, smiling at Naruto. Well, obviously. I also fight better when I have my friends cheering me, Naruto replied. After a few more minutes, Hayashi decided that the spar was over. Hikari silently signaled Naruto that it was okay to speak with Hinata if he wanted to. Hey, Hinata, way to go. Naruto cheered as he ran towards his best friend. The Hyaga heiress blushed once again. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Say, I was going to Ichiraku's to have some ramen. Wanna join me? Hinata didn't reply, and merely looked at her father. Hayashi pondered for a few seconds before revealing his answer. Yes. But your mother will go with you, Hayashi stated in a neutral, but commanding tone. Come on Hayashi, what's the worst it could dash, Hikari tried to protest. Hikari, I'm not going to leave our 8-year-old daughter alone with a boy, Hayashi almost spat the last word. If only he knew all the times Naruto and Hinata had been alone since they met. So either you or another adult goes with her, or she can't go. All right. As you wish, dear, Hikari rolled her eyes. Naruto-kun, wait a minute before Hinata-chan gets a quick shower and gets dressed. Half an hour later, the two Hyaga girls and the Uzumaki boy were at the latter's favorite food place. All right, 2 chicken ramen bowls for the ladies, and 5 miso ramen bowls for our favorite customer, Ichiraku announced as he placed the orders on the counter. Enjoy the food. We will. Naruto happily replied as he started wolfing down the food. Hikari watched him with curious eyes. Kid, how can you eat so much and not have an ounce of fat in your body? The Hyaga woman asked. Because I burn all of it training a lot. I need to if I'm to become Hokage. Naruto proudly proclaimed as he finished his first bowl and went to the second. Especially now, that I'm learning elemental ninjutsu. Really? That's amazing Naruto-kun. Because that kind of J-jutsus are pretty advanced, Hinata noted, as she slowly ate her ramen. Indeed. They're usually taught to Chunin, and the average age of becoming a Chunin is 15 to 16. You're half that age, and not even an academy graduate, Hikari observed. Yeah, that's how awesome I am. Naruto claimed with a foxy grin as he emptied his third bowl. Hey, what about you, Hikari-san? What is your element? Acta Oli, the Hyaga clan does not use traditional ninjutsu, just our own martial art, the gentle fist. But I believe my affinity is water. I don't know what affinity is Hinata's. Well, we might find it soon, since Dad said it's going to talk with the Hokage so they teach elemental ninjutsu at the academy, Naruto claimed. The academy? Isn't that a bit too soon? I mean, not all the kids have the luck of having a clan or being trained by 2 Sannin, Naruto-kun. Hikari asked. I don't know, my dad said that the standards of the academy decayed a lot since the days he and mom were genin. By the way, did you know that they graduated when they were just 6? They're living legends. It's something to be expected. Mother. Hinata spoke up. Do why you think I could learn elemental and ninjutsu? Hikari shot her daughter an odd look. Why would you want to do such a thing? Well, it's that I'm not that good with the gentle fist, so maybe if I could have something else to rely on. I don't see why not. While we don't use traditional ninjutsu, it isn't banned or anything, Hikari shrugged, then she turned more serious. Though I don't want you to neglect your gentle fist training. Your father and I still expect you to master it to some degree. You can learn any other kind of ninjutsu to supplement your skill repertoire if you wish, but none of them are to be treated as the replacement of the gentle first. Understood? Why yes, mother. Hikari smiled. Good then. Though then again I believe that maybe traditional ninjutsu will give you less trouble, since you have such a good chakra control for somebody of your age. Hey, if that's the case, maybe she could also learn medical ninjutsu. Mom says that it requires a precise chakra control, Naruto commented. You now want to add medical ninjutsu as well? I think Hinata will have enough with elemental ninjutsu and the gentle fist, Naruto-kun, Hikari replied. Though given her history, Hikari couldn't help but feel a newfound respect for medical ninjutsu. Well, my parents say that a great ninja is a master of multiple skills. That's why besides taijutsu and ninjutsu, I'm also going to learn sealing jutsus as well. And I heard Dad talking about something called senjutsu, which I don't know what it is. All you need is the will to do it. It's good to see that despite being so young, you're thinking so much about your future, Naruto-kun. That kind of hindsight is rare in kids your age. Besides, I also heard Mom saying that she wanted to convince Hyuga to become a medical nin, since he said something about the Byakugan being a good medical tool or something. You have a point in there. But in the end, it all depends on what Hinata wants to do, Hikari noted, looking as he daughter. Well, as for now, I think I'll like to try elemental ninjutsu F first, and then maybe medical ninjutsu as well. Hinata said. Alright. Can Hinata come to train with Dad and me one of these days? Naruto asked to Hikari. I don't see why not. She can go once she finishes her daily gentle fist practice. Yay. You'll see Hinata, you'll become a mistress of the elements in no time. That evening, at the Naka Shrine, almost the entire Uchiha clan was gathering there. Only 3 members were missing, the disowned Uchiha. Itachi, his little brother, Sasuke, which was happily asleep on his bed, unaware of the nightmarish turn of events that were about to come, and Shisui Uchiha. There were many crates scattered around the place. Some of them were opened, revealing its contents. Some of them had ninja tools such as kunao and shuriken. Others had flak jackets, similar to the ones worn by Chunin, except that this were black instead of green, and had the Uchiha fan on its back instead of the Uzushiagaku or red swirl. Another crate had forehead protectors, only with the Uchiha fan instead of the Konoha symbol. Fugaku Uchiha, the clan head, was on top of a couple crates that served as a makeshift podium. The Uchiha stopped chatting among themselves and paid attention to what their leader was about to say. My brethren, it's a pleasure to see all of you gathered here, in this sacred place. Since time immemorial, the Uchiha has been one of the most powerful clans of the entire elemental nations. An unstoppable force matched by very few clans. Our power, however, wasn't without a price, and said price being doomed to a life of constant battle. That's why our ancestor, Madara Uchiha, chose to join the Senju clan and founded this village. That granted us peace. But said peace, like our power, came with a price. Since we became part of this village, the Uchiha had always been second-rate citizens. Forced to live isolated from the rest of the village, barred from attaining positions with any real power. But, as dutiful and loyal ninja, we endured. But being accused of being behind the Nine Tails attack, that was the last straw. Fugaku yelled. He was replied by multiple Uchiha shouting back in agreement. Allying with the Senju was a mistake Madara realized, and so did we much later. But except death, there's no mistake that can't be rectified, and that's what we will be doing soon. We will take back what is ours. We will take back Konoha. The rest of the clans will bow before our might. Fugaku's words were met with more shouts, louder and with more enthusiasm than the first ones. You must be thinking that this is a suicidal endeavor. And in most circumstances, it would be. But tonight, we have a golden chance that we can't afford to pass. Somebody contacted me a couple years ago, and offered me the means to take this village for the clan. Said person has vast resources that he had put at our disposal. Among them, he created a climate of chaos and instability across the land of fire, forcing the Hokage to dispatch most of his strongest jonin to keep the peace. Which means that there are almost no elite ninja protecting Konoha. Between that, and the reinforcements my ally will provide me, in 2 days Konoha will be under our control. Again, more shouts and cheers. However, not everybody was convinced. "Fugaku-sama, who is this ally you keep talking about?" asked an Uchiha. "Yeah, is he or she the leader of another village?" "That's where the reinforcements come from," another Uchiha asked. "I believe I can answer that question," a booming, disembodied voice said. All the Uchihas looked around in surprise. Some even activated their Sharingan to see where this mysterious voice came from. Besides Fugaku, a semi-transparent, swirling vortex appeared, and from said vortex emerged a figure. A man wearing a black hooded cloak with red clouds over a set of armor. His face was hidden by an orange mask with black flames on it, as well as a single hole on the right side, revealing a red eye. "My brethren, this is the ally I've been talking about. Why don't you introduce yourself?" Fugaku asked to the mysterious newcomer. "Of course," said the masked man. "My name is Madara Uchiha, and I came back to help you reclaim what is rightfully yours." Chapter 9. The Uchiha-ku, Part I, First Blood. Or Sharingan vs Byakugan. Or Sharingan vs Inoshikacho. It was the end of another nice, quiet, and uneventful day at Konoha. The sun was starting to set, and its inhabitants got prepared for their usual evening activities. At the Hokage Tower, Hiruzen Sarutobi had just finished with the daily paperwork, and was now relaxing by reading a novel on one of the tower's living rooms. Shikaku Nara, Inoichi Yamanaka, and Choza Akimichi were on their favorite tavern, sharing a few drinks, reminiscing about the old days, bitching about their wives and boasting about their children. Anko Mitarashi was at her favorite spot, Dangoya, having some sake and stuffing her mouth with her favorite food. Irika and Mizuki were also hanging out at a bar, with the latter trying and failing to flirt with the kunoichi there, and Irika trying to remind Mizuki in vain that he was going to marry in a few weeks. Kurane Yui was at her house, doing her laundry. Yojeo Izuki and Hayate Gecko were on a date to celebrate the first-year anniversary of their relationship. In the Hyaga compound, Hayashi Hyaga was revising some of the clan's paperwork regarding the clan's expenditures for the past month, while his wife played with their daughters. Meanwhile, Hisashi and Niji finished some late afternoon training at the boys' request. On a one-room apartment near the walls, Itaka looked through the window at the village, wondering why he didn't hear any news from his friend and cousin Shisui yet, and prayed for his safety. At the Senja residence, Tsunade was in the living room teaching Hagane and Kaido how to play poker, while Shizune and Naruto were in the kitchen about to prepare dinner, while Shizune told Naruto that if he got ramen for breakfast and later for lunch, he wasn't going to have ramen for dinner. The Uchiha compound, however, was completely empty, except for one person, Sasuke Uchiha, who was fast asleep in his bed after having a rather brutal training session with his father. Little did he know that Fugaku wanted Sasuke to be asleep as soon as possible to keep him away from what was about to happen. At the west gate of the Konoha, two Chunin were finishing their shift. One of them was big, had spiky brown hair and a broad nose. The other was a skinny man who wore an eye patch over his left eye, and a bandana over his head. "The sun is setting down. So, I believe it's time to close the doors, right, Beko?" the skinny one said. "I guess so. Thought our replacements didn't come yet, Iwana," the man named Beko replied. "Oh, who cares? It's not our business if they're late. Come on, let's close the gates and go to have some drinks." "My throat is dry," Beko said as he walked towards the gates, but heard no response from his partner. "Iwana." The big-nosed Chunin turned around to see his eye-patch-wearing partner flat on his back, lifeless. "What the hell? I'm sorry, but the gates are to remain open for the rest of the night," a chilling voice said behind Beko. Beko turned around, and when he did so, the man behind him slashed his throat open. The last thing the Chunin saw before expiring were a pair of red eyes, staring into his very soul. "West gate, secured. Send the signal," the Uchiha Chunin said to his partner. The other Uchiha nodded, and formed several hand seals, and cast a great fireball into the sky. A few minutes later, hundreds of criminals, mercenaries, and low-level missing-nin that were hiding among the forests of the outskirts of Konoha left their hiding place and rushed into the unsuspecting village. It took no time for the Konoha ninja to find themselves overwhelmed while dealing with this wave of enemies that came seemingly out of nowhere. Meanwhile, On a secret route underground, Danzo walked through a hallway while being flanked by his two most loyal bodyguards, Fu Yamanaka and Toru Nabarame. Everything has been prepared for the surgery, Danzo-sama. The medics are already waiting for you, Fu mentioned. Excellent. What about the seals? Danzo asked. Already prepared as well. It will be applied immediately after the surgery. They will make sure that nobody will be able to remove the Sharingan from your eye socket, Torin replied. Good. Come on, I want to get over with this as soon as possible, Danzo said as he finally reached the door of the operating room. What on earth? Danzo was expecting the two root medic nins to greet him and ask him to lay on the operation table so they could start. Instead, they were lying on the floor, motionless, surrounded by a pool of their own blood. On the operation table was sitting a masked man wearing a black cloak with red clouds on it. On his hand was a jar with a Sharingan eye on it. Oh, hey, what's up? I hope you don't mind, but I really need this eye, so I'm going to confiscate it for the time being, the masked man nonchalantly announced. And if you do mind, well, you'll have to deal with it. That's how life rolls. Phew, Torun, execute this man and retrieve the eye. Danzo's voice was firm, but not without panic. His two minions unsheathed their tontos and charged at the masked man. I'd love to stay and play with you guys, but I'm kind of busy now. Places to go, people to kill, I'm sure you understand, the masked man said, and disappeared in a swirling vortex before Danzo's bodyguards could reach him. Sound the alarm, he can't be too far. Danzo shouted, now more desperate. Irika and Mizuki were fighting against a pair of nearly identical ninja, wearing gray and dark blue camouflage clothes, rebreathers, kirigaku forehead protectors, and large blade gauntlets on their respective dominant arms. Said gauntlets were linked by a long, spiky metal chain. I think I know this guys, Kirigaku's demon brothers. They fled their village after a failed attempt of a coup d'état. It seems that they're trying again here, Irika said. That's nice and all, but how strong they are? Mizuki asked, a bit nervous. The bingo book lists them as B-rank, so they're similar in power to us, Irika mentioned. It says that their specialty are ambushes, but are mediocre in direct combat. Let me show you how wrong that bingo book of yours is it. Come on, Miizu. One of them said as he and his brother charged at the duo of teachers. Mizuki jumped in midair, pulled out his Fuma Shuriken, and tossed it against the chain, pinning it to the ground and stopping the brothers' charge. They quickly pressed a button on their gauntlets that detached the chain from them, and allowed them to fight individually. Bald gauntlets clashed against kunai and shuriken. While the demon brothers' weapons were indeed dangerous and intimidating, they stopped them from performing hand seals, and thus jutsu. They had been working on one-handed seals, but they still had a long way to go until they could use ninjutsu with just one hand. One of the brothers left himself wide open for a second, but that was all what Irika needed. The teacher kicked his opponent, who was pushed against his near-identical brother, while Irika made some hand seals. Demonic illusion, night cover. The brothers quickly felt prey to Irika's illusion, dropped on their knees, and soon they fell asleep. He then started to tie them with their own chain. Well, so much for this demon brothers, Mizuki said, as he twirled a kunai on his finger. Mizuki, behind you. The white-haired Chunin jumped in time to avoid a backstab from an enemy, this time an Uchiha Chunin. Irika ran through hand seals. Water release, water gun. Irika shouted before releasing a powerful stream of water out of his mouth that blasted the Uchiha against a nearby wall. Mizuki finished him on by stabbing a kunai on his side. Why the hell the Uchiha are fighting alongside these guys? Shouldn't they be on our side? Mizuki asked, frustrated. It seems that the Uchiha brought them, Irika said, with a tinge of sadness. What do you mean by that? I heard some rumors about the Umbu watching the Uchiha clan because they were afraid they were doing some shady stuff. Apparently, this is what they had planned. These guys seem to be their foot soldiers. Great, just great. And why the hell are all the Jonin? Your pal Kakashi would be of great help here. Kakashi had to leave the village the last week due to a long-term mission. I don't know what are the other Jonin doing. Okay, in that case, this what we are going to do. So far, We don't know how this will end, so we'll find a safe place to hide there. Once the battle is over, we get out and join whoever has won. What? Mizuki, you can't be serious. Are you going to abandon Konoha in its time of need? Iruka exclaimed, perplexed. It's the most intelligent solution. What if the Uchiha win? Being Konoha ninja, do you think they'll be nice to us and let us go back to our jobs like nothing happened? And if we side with the Uchiha and they lose, we'll be executed for treason. That's why we have to fight, to make sure that the Uchiha don't win. Iruka said, staring angrily at his co-worker. Every man counts. No, until things calm down, it's every man for himself, Mizuki replied as he grabbed his Fuma shuriken and tossed it at a disbelieving Iruka. The teacher managed to move aside before the giant shuriken would hit him, and stabbed itself on the chest of a bandit who already had a knife raised ready to stab Iruka in the back. That was on the house, don't expect me to save your sorry ass again, Mizuki harshly stated as he retrieved his main weapon from the corpse. Now, be smart once in your life and find a hiding place. With that, Mizuki leaped out of Iruka's sight. Iruka sighed, and decided that the best course of action would be to find other more alone ninja to watch each other's back. Meanwhile, on his apartment, unaware of all the chaos unfolding on the village, Itaka was washing the dishes after having a light meal for dinner. He had planned to meditate for half an hour and go to bed early. The Hokage had already assigned him another A-rank mission for the next day. Things weren't going too bad for the Uchiha outcast. He still had a rather big debt with the bank, but he was saving up a rather large amount of money that allowed him to cover for basic needs, to pay rent and the bank each month, and still have some money that he decided to save for future emergencies. Though maybe he could use some of that money to decorate his apartment a bit more. One of the reasons he didn't allow Sasuke to visit him yet was because he thought Sasuke wouldn't be comfortable on such gloomy place. He was snapped from his train of thoughts when somebody loudly knocked the door. Coming, Itaka said, as he dried his hands on a rug. The person at the other side continued pounding the door as if he or she was trying to take it down. Not that it would take much effort, but Itaka preferred the door of his apartment to be intact. I said I'm coming. Where is the fire? Itaki asked as he opened the door. He gasped in shock when he saw a badly beaten Shisui, covered in bruises and cuts, as well as missing his left eye. To answer your question, all around Konoha, Shisui said before collapsing. Shisui. Half an hour later, the weakened Shisui was lying on Itaka's bed. Itaka was no medicnin, but he did have some first aid training as well as a medkit, so he could patch all of Shisui's wounds, including the one from his eye, without much trouble. Fortunately for both, none of Shisui's wounds were too grave, ignoring the missing eye. That's it. I patched you up as best as I could, but I think it's enough. I think you may have some broken ribs and maybe a fractured arm, so it would be best if you don't move. Now tell me what is going on, and what happened to you. Shisui sighed. Danzo, that bastard. That's what happened. Noticing Itaka's confusion, the one-eyed Uchiha decided to elaborate. I was on my way to the Naka shrine when I was told that Danzo wanted to speak with me. He deemed me a threat, claiming that I wanted to use the Koda Amatsukami on him and the Hokage, and tried to remove my eyes. At least, I managed to keep one eye before I lost his goons. And that's not even the worst of it. While Itaki remained stoic on the outside, on the inside he was livid. Danzo would definitely pay for such treachery. He would make sure of it. The coup d'état. It's happening as we speak, Shisui announced, and saw how Itaka lost all the color of his skin. In fact, I have been attacked by Konoha ninja on my way here. And before you ask, yes, I managed to lose them before I got here. This happened because of me, Itaka thought. I chose the easy way out instead of staying and trying to make things better. I shouldn't have listened to Shizune-san. Shizune-san is not to blame. She wasn't aware of the context of my situation when she offered her advice. I'm the only one to blame. And thus, I'm the only one who has to, and can, fix this mistake. Itaka? Shisui asked, yanking the younger Uchiha out of his thoughts. What are we going to do? We. Yes, we. Did you expect that I was going to stay here while our clan burns Konoha to the ground? No, there is no we, Shisui. You're going to stay here, and rest. I'll take care of everything. Itaki opened his closet, and started to get dressed with his ninja gear. You can't leave me here. Danzo still wants my sherry non, and I'm in no condition to defend myself. Come on, at least take my eye. Itaki's hand quickly grabbed Shisui's before he could pluck his remaining eye from its socket. That eye is okay where it is now. I will be fine, and so will you. Now lie down and rest, or else your wounds will open. You can't be serious. Are you planning to go there alone? You have no friends or allies out there. The Konoha ninja will try to kill you the moment they see your sherry non. That won't be an obstacle. I promise that nobody will die needlessly, especially not me, Itaki assured as he put on his Chunin flak jacket. I'll place a multi-layered genjutsu on this place in case somebody gets lucky and track you here. If you're not on this bed when I return and you haven't been killed or taken prisoner by the enemy, I will kill you myself. You can't be serious. I will toss you down a cliff. How does that sound? Meh, there are far worse ways to die. Well, that's all, I'm leaving. But don't worry, I'll send somebody I trust to watch over you. I don't know when I'll be back, but if I'm never back, take care of Sasuke for me, Itaka grimly asked. You don't need to tell me that. But just in case, try to come back alive. I have no idea of what to do with children. Itaka chuckled at Shisui one last time, and left through a window. Hayashi Hayaga was having dinner with his wife and daughters. It was a moment he enjoyed the most, since it was one of the few rare opportunities where he could spend some time with his whole family, not counting his brother. Sure, he spent a lot of time training his daughters, but contrary to the popular belief, Hayashi Hayaga also enjoyed the rare moments he had to relax. After all, being a clan head was a rather demanding and thankless job. So, how was your first day of training with Uzumaki-san and Jiraiya-sama, Hinata? Hayashi asked without taking his eyes from his dinner. Very good, father, Hinata Sotfly replied. My affinity is L lightning. Though I have to complete a few chakra C control exercises before I learn any new jutsu, Hinata explained. Lightning. Interesting. I heard it's a good element to use in conjunction with blade weapons. Too bad we don't use those, Hikari casually commented. Maybe IC could use lightning W with the gentle fist. Hinata meekly suggested. Combine the gentle fist with elemental ninjutsu? That's unheard of. Hayashi exclaimed. I think it's a rather sound idea. It would give our techniques another layer of power, Hikari sharply replied. Still, Hinata should master the actual gentle first before thinking in doing modifications, Hayashi countered. Suddenly, a branch house Hayaga barged in the dining room, panting. Hayashi-sama. You need to come with us, it's a disaster. Hayashi tensed, and jumped on his feet. What's going on? The Uchiha are leading an insurrection against the village. Hikari gasped in horror. Hinata didn't fully understand what those words mean, but she knew it wasn't anything good. And that's not all. There are dozens of Uchiha outside the compound. They're demanding for you to come out and face them. All right, let's go. Hikari, stay here and take care of the girls. I will see what this nonsense is about. 10 minutes later, Hayashi arrived at the front patio of the compound, where many Hayagas, both main and branch house, were already on a fighting stance, ready to engage the invading Uchiha and their mercenary allies. Among them were his brother, Hisashi. I am Hayashi Hayaga, head of the Hayaga main house. What is the meaning of this? Hayashi demanded. Just like the branch house member said, there were a multitude of Uchihas present. Among them, a masked man in a black cloak with red clouds stood out. Apparently, he wasn't the leader, as another Uchiha, a tall, well-built man, with a buzz cut, close to Hayashi's age took a few steps forwards. Hayashi guessed he was a Jonin. Hayashi Hayaga, both you and your entire clan have been deemed as a threat to Konoha. You will have to come with us. If you resist arrest, we will use lethal force. I'm sure both me and my clansmen will come peacefully if you show us an arrest order with the stamp of the Hokage's office and the Hokage's signature, Hayashi replied back. The Hokage no longer rules over Konoha. The military police is the village's highest authority now. Now, tell your clansmen to surrender. This is my last warning, the Uchiha Jonin said. Now you hear my warning, Uchiha. This ground under your feet belongs to the Hyuga clan. If you and your treacherous clansmen aren't out of our property in less than 10 seconds, you will be escorted out of here inside a coffin. I'm going to take that as an hostile response. Everybody, attack. Multiple Uchiha flied through hand seals. Others grabbed some shurikens from their tool pouches. Fire release, Great Fireball Jutsu. Fire release, Phoenix Sage Fire Jutsu. A barrage of fireballs of multiple sizes and shurikens flied towards the Hyuga, still standing their ground. Though if the Uchiha thought that they could take them down with ranged attacks, they had another thing coming. 8 trigrams, vacuum palm wall. Shouted many Hyuga as they thrust their palms forward, releasing multiple vacuum blasts that stopped some of the incoming fireballs. 8 trigrams, heavenly spin. Other Hyuga shouted while they turned into blue chakra twisters that deflected the remaining fireballs. While the Hyuga were defending, half of the Uchiha and their criminal allies decided to charge forward. Crimson Squad and Blood Squad, stay here and secure the patio. Storm Squad and Tempest Squad, get in the compound and kill everybody who puts up a fight. The Uchiha Jonin ordered. Yes, Nakamura Teiko. Multiple Uchiha replied in unison, as half of the Uchiha there abandoned the patio and got into the compound. However, Hayashi had heard those orders as well, and he wasn't going to have any of that. Thanks to his Byakugan, he spotted his brother in no time, and leaped at him the moment he stopped the heart of an Uchiha Chunin with a well-placed palm strike. Hisashi. I need you to go inside and protect Hikari and the kids. Hayashi shouted. We're in the middle of a battle right now, and I won't leave your side, it's my duty. The younger twin replied. Your duty is to obey me, and if you need cover, I will provide you some. Now go. Hayashi said as he engaged 2 Uchiha, a Jonin, and a Chunin. Shooting one last glance at his elder brother and clan head, Hisashi nodded and rushed back to the complex. Shikaku Nara, Inoichi Yamanaka, Choza Akimichi. You 3 have been declared a threat to the village, and will have to come with us. If you resist arrest, we will use lethal force, Mikoto Uchiha announced. Shikaku looked around him. Half a dozen Uchihas, led by the wife of the clan head, surrounded both him and his 2 closest friends just after dispatching a bunch of mercenaries that were looting a store. Is this some kind of joke, Mikoto-san? Shikaku asked. Because if it is, let me tell you is a very tasteless one. Yeah, you're the police, shouldn't you be dealing with these rats that are infesting the village all of a sudden? Choza asked. Choza, I believe it was the Uchiha who brought these rats. I didn't see any of these criminal scum attacking any Uchiha, Inoichi commented. Well, what is your answer? Mikoto asked. Shikaku sighed dramatically. This is going to be such a drag. Then in an instant, his hands formed a seal. Shadow Imitation Jutsu. Multiple black tendrils shoot from Shikaku's shadow and flied towards the Uchiha, who jumped in time before being caught. While on air, Mikoto's hands ran through hand seals as well. Fire release, Great Fireball Jutsu. The Uchiha clan head's wife breathed a huge fireball at the Nara clan head, who was forced to move and cancel his jutsu. Separate them from each other. Not only are they Jonin, their teamwork is downright legendary. Mikoto ordered. Yes, Mikoto-sama. The other Uchiha replied. They outnumber us 2 to 1. Inoichi, can you do something about that? Shikaku asked. On it. Inoichi said as he formed a hand seal that formed a rectangle of negative space between them. Mind-body disturbance jutsu. The 2 Uchihas that were about to attack him were stopped in his tracks, realizing that they no longer controlled their bodies. Much to their horror, they started to stab each other repeatedly. Good work. Now is my turn. Choza said, making a hand seal. Multi-size jutsu. Choza's body inflated into a large balloon. Human boulder. Choza crushed the 2 Uchiha still figthing each other, while the other 4 managed to avoid the same painful fate. Mikoto didn't waste time and pulled out a radio. This is Mikoto Uchiha requesting for reinforcements to deal with a trio of Jonin-level insurgents. We're on Matabi Street. Over. Insurgents? We're not the ones trying to take over Konoha, thank you, Shikaku said as he activated his shadow initiation jutsu again. In no time, a couple Uchiha Chunin leading a group of mercenaries joined the fray. More people? What a drag, Shikaku moaned. Choza, can you take care of the rabble? You can count on that. Multi-size jutsu. Choza's size increased several times, and used his also enlarged bow staff to wipe the mercenaries and Uchihas as if he was cleaning the floor. Still, it proved to be a harder task than expected, since his foes were quicker than they thought, and his increased size made a perfect target for the Uchiha's fireballs and shurikens. That should keep them busy while Inoichi and I will deal with the red-eyed pests. Watch out who you call pest, Nara. An Uchiha shouted as he leaped at him, which proved to be a mistake, since he put Shikaku in the perfect position of binding him with his shadow. Thanks for your helpful assistance, Uchiha-san. Now die, Shikaku said as he made a hand sign. An arm emerged from the Uchiha's shadow, which reached his neck, and strangled the unlucky Uchiha to death. Meanwhile, Inoichi was about to take control of another Uchiha's body when he felt several chakra signatures getting closer. Shikaku, more enemies incoming. Inoichi warned. Where do they come from? Shikaku said as he tried to nail the remaining enemies with his shadow imitation. 5 o'clock. Watch out for the roofs. Choza, did you hear that? Yes. I see them now. The giant Akimichi said as he moved to intercept them. I'll see if I can take Mikoto down, she's the leader of this squad. Inoichi announced, making the same hand seal again, pointing at two Uchiha that were fighting Shikaku. Mind-body disturbance jutsu. Once again, those two Uchiha stopped in their tracks, stopped attacking Shikaku and lunged at a growling Mikoto, who did her best to keep them at bay without killing or hurting them much. Shikaku, now. Thanks to the distraction provided by Inoichi, the Nara Patriarch managed to capture Mikoto with his shadow. Shadow imitation jutsu, success. Again. Shikaku said with a slight smile. Though said smile vanished when he saw that Mikoto was also smiling at him. In your dreams, the Uchiha Kunoichi retorted before disappearing in a cloud of smoke, leaving a trashcan in her place. Inoichi, track her, now. Shikaku frantically barked. The Yamanaka clan head nodded and made a hand sign. He managed to find Mikoto in no time. Who happened to be just behind him? Inoichi tried to turn around, but not before Mikoto stabbed him in the back with a kunao. She then kicked him into the ground and jumped backwards a few meters. Aargh. Inukai instinctively threw his hands at his back, trying to remove the kunao. Inoichi. Shikaku yelled. I'm okay, it's only a superficial cut, the jacket protected me somehow. Try to remove the kunao if you can. Mikoto's lips formed a chilling smile. Shikaku paled. Unbeknownst to Inoichi, while the kunao only made a flesh wound on his back, there was an explosive tag attached to the bladed weapon. The Uchiha matriarch made hand sign, which was followed by an explosion, and Inoichi Yamanaka was no more. For a second, time seemed to stop for Shikaku and Choza as they saw their mutual best friend, longtime partner, and trusted teammate being blown up. When the dust settled, all that was left was his charred, immobile corpse. This is the fate of those who oppose the new rulers of Konoha. I'll be forgiving and will give you a chance to surrender. If you do not surrender, you will follow the same fate as your friend, Mikoto shouted, adopting now a cold, neutral tone. Choza let out a deafening shout, and started to stomp wildly around him, in an attempt to crush the nearby enemy ninja, not caring of the buildings he could potentially bring down. Shikaku, on the other hand, only shot at Mikoto a chilling, murderous glare, while remained there, immobile. That was a mistake, was all what Shikaku said. Mikoto didn't say anything, just frowned, and motioned her hand at him. Multiple Uchiha and mercenaries leaped towards the Nara clan head from multiple directions, weapons raised in air ready to kill him. But Shikaku wouldn't have any of that. Making a quick hand seal, multiple shadow tendrils shot from his shadow, instantly catching his attackers, pinning him in one place. With another hand seal, Other shadow tendrils appeared, except that this ones were material, took the shape of spikes, and impaled the paralyzed ninja. The shadows then retreated, and the enemy ninja fell to the ground, motionless. You're next. Shadow Gathering Jutsu. More shadow tendrils shot from Shikaku's shadow, these also being material, and flied at Mikoto. While far from her prime, the Uchiha Kunoichi did an admirable effort dodging them so far by constantly running or jumping to the sides. She then leaped into the air and made several hand signs before grabbing some shuriken from her pouch. Fire release, flaming shuriken barrage. The ninja stars immediately caught on fire the moment Mikoto tossed them. Shikaku gasped, cancelled his jutsu, and tried to out of the way, but he was too slow. The burning shuriken pierced his flak jacket, and embedded themselves into the Nara's flesh. Another one down. Mikoto cheered. But her cheer was short-lived as Shikaku disappeared in a cloud of smoke. What? A shadow clone. Mikoto tried to look around for the real Shikaku, but then realized that she couldn't move. From the corner of her eyes, she could see that a shadow tendril had caught her shadow. Shikaku jumped down from the nearby roof he was on. A shadow clone, when did you make it? I didn't take my eyes from you this whole time. Mikoto would have stomped his foot on anger if he was able to move. Certainly, you didn't. The Sharingan is rather hard to fool, but hard does not equal impossible. To answer your question, I used the explosion that killed Inoichi as a cover. What? But, how? The moment I saw that explosive tag I already knew that Inoichi was dead. All that was left for me to do was to avenge him, and devised a plan in order to make you let your guard down. And now, all that was left is for you to pay. Shadow Neck Binding Jutsu. Mikoto saw a black hand creeping through her body until it reached her neck, and in less than a minute her world turned into darkness. After retrieving Niji, Hisashi found Hikari, Hinata, and Hanabi in the dining room, just where his brother said they would be. After telling them what was going on, he began to lead them to the one of the compound's emergency exits. When Hisashi saw many Hyuga fighting the Uchiha invaders and in most cases, losing against them, he felt the urge to help them, but felt compelled to ignore them and follow Hayashi's instructions instead. What are we going to do once we get out of here, father? Niji asked. We will try to find some help. Do not fear, Niji, everything will be fine. Unfortunately for the Hyugas, 2 Uchihas, a Jonin, and a Chunin, blocked their path. All members of Hyuga clan are under arrest. If you resist, we will use lethal force. The Uchiha Jonin echoed his commander's words. Would you dare to hurt children, you monster? Hikari spat at him as she clutched Hanabi in her arms. There's no need to hurt anybody if you come peacefully, the Uchiha Chunin interceded. Hisashi said nothing and sprung to action. Taking advantage of the Chunin momentary lack of focus, he managed to land a palm strike on his chest, knocking him backwards. The Jonin immediately reacted and unsheathed a katana and attempted to slice him. Hisashi bended backwards just in time, and the Uchiha's katana only sliced some of his hair. The Uchiha Chunin managed to get back on his feet, and was going through several hand seals. Fire release, Phoenix Sage Fire Jutsu. He shouted, casting multiple fireballs at Hisashi. Just as fast, Hikari, who no longer had Hanabi on her arms, jumped in front of Hisashi and she started to spin. Heavenly spin! She shouted, turning herself into a spinning dome of chakra, deflecting the fireballs. Don't you dare to ignore me. I may be retired, but I used to be a Jonin. Thank you, Hikari-sama. Let me repay your kind act by finishing this fight. 8 trigrams, 32 palms. Hisashi shouted as he delivered a quick succession of palm strikes at the 2 Uchihas. 2 strikes. 4 strikes. 8 strikes. 16 strikes. 32 strikes. Unable to stop the barrage of gentle fist strikes, the Uchihas fell to the ground, prey of sudden chakra exhaustion. While that attack was nowhere near enough to kill them, or even close all their chakra points, it was enough to put them out of commission long enough for the group of 5 Hyugas to escape the compound safely. Mother, where is father? Isn't he going to come with us? Hinata asked. Your father is fighting the Uchihas who attacked our home. Don't worry dear, he's strong, he will be fine, Hikari said in a reassuring tone. As they ran away, Hisashi looked at the compound, which had several parts of it on fire, one last time, and wondered if Hayashi could escape alive and meet them again. Back in the patio, the battle had finally died down. The place was littered with corpses, both Uchiha, missing Nin, and Hyuga alike. Only 2 men were standing, Hayashi and Ko Hyuga. Both of them had some minor injuries and were exhausted, but they could stand on their own. The Hyuga patriarch looked around, and had to repress the urge to throw up. The sight of so many dead Hyugas sickened him to the core. Not even fighting in the Third War shook him so much. Hayashi-sama, are you alright? Ko asked as he limped to him. Hayashi tried to regain his composure. Yes, Ko. Come on, let's get inside, I can hear fights still going on. We need to save as many clansmen as possible. Hayashi then heard a sickening noise coming from Ko. Agrk. Ko suddenly grunted, blood coming out of his mouth. He looked down, and saw a sword protruding from his chest. Ko fell to the ground, revealing his murderer, the masked man of the black cloak. Yes, Hayashi. Go and save your clan. What's left of it, at least, the masked man mocked, as he removed his sword from Ko and kicked his corpse aside. But I don't know how can you do that if you can't save yourself first. Hayashi didn't say anything, and slipped into the gentle fist stance. You will pay for that, murderer. We both had the Byakugan activated. How did you manage to ambush Ko like that? Well, I could tell you, but if I did I'd lose one of my main advantages, and that would be pretty detrimental, don't you think? The masked man replied in the same tone, as he sheathed his katana. Hayashi tensed when he saw his enemy flying through hand seals. Wood release, great spear tree. What? Hayashi was shocked, though his battle instinct compelled him to jump backwards, trying to avoid the emerging sharp tree roots trying to impale him. Through his Byakugan, he saw that more roots were emerging, surrounding him. Heavenly spin. Hayashi turned into a spinning blue dome that shattered the roots the moment they tried to grab him. Not bad, definitely not bad. How about this then? The masked man commented, doing hand seals again. Multiple great fireballs jutsu. The masked man shot a succession of large fireballs at Hayashi. The Hyuga clan head dodged some, and blocked others with the vacuum palm, all while he dashed towards his foe, who remained in the same place, making no attempt to moving. Impressive. Guess that you guys don't exaggerate that much when you boast about your power. If you thought that was impressive, wait until you see this. Hayashi slipped into the gentle fist stance again. The battle is over, you're within my divination field. 8 trigrams, 64 palms. The Hyuga clan head lunged at the masked man. 2 strikes. But much to his bewilderment, his hands phased through the masked Uchiha's body harmlessly. 4 strikes. The result was the same. Well, I'm afraid to say that wasn't very impressive, the masked man said as he let out a yawn. What is this trickery? A genjutsu? Of course, it has to be. There's no way you can use the wood release. A genjutsu, you say? Good guess. But if I'm a genjutsu, try to explain this. Suddenly, at an almost imperceptible speed, the masked man unsheathed his katana again and buried it inside Hayashi's chest. Does this feel like a genjutsu, Hayashi-sama? The masked man pushed his sword deeper. He then pulled his sword out and kicked Hayashi's corpse back into the ground. After cleaning the blood from his weapon on Hayashi's robes, he sheathed his sword again, and pulled out an scalpel. Oh my, Hayashi, what a beautiful eyes you have. I hope you don't mind if I borrow them. Then, he looked around, and noticed all the dead Hyugas around him, many of them who were main house. Oh what the hell, I'll take all of them. You don't see a chance like this every day. The masked man started to hum a cheery melody as he began to harvest Byakugans from the dead Hyugas. Jidensha. 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 Koid. Koid. Koid Kuruyo. Meanwhile, at the Hokage's tower, Sarutobi was unaware of all the chaos and destruction that was unfolding on the village he ruled. He was happily reading a novel on one of the tower's living rooms when one of the night shift umbus barged inside the room, a man who wore the mask of a tiger. Hokage-sama! It's a catastrophe! The Umbu shouted, panicked. The Uchiha clan is trying to take over the village. Sarutobi slammed the book shut, and turned at the Umbu with a shocked expression. What? When did this happen? We don't know, Hokage-sama, but we believe it was at sunset. They have an army of criminals and mercenaries backing them up. What is the situation now? The Uchihas and their allies have taken over the torture and interrogation headquarters, the Hyuga clan compound, the hospital, the aviary, and some compounds from minor clans. They're currently trying to take the Jonin standby station and the academy. And we spotted an 8-man team led by Fugaku Uchiha himself heading here, probably to take over the tower and assassinate you. Sarutobi was trying his best to process the gravity of the situation. What happened to Shisui Uchiha? Did the other Uchiha see through his ploy? There has to be the only logical explanation. However, there was no time to ponder what had gone wrong, but to remedy the problem at hand. He had to act now to prevent the number of deaths from growing. I want you and all the Umbu of the tower to go and liberate the hospital, that's your number one priority. Then, I want you to protect the civilians from being attacked. I will stay here and will try to make Fugaku-san to see reason. But Hokage-sama, we can't leave you unprotected in a time like this. The Umbu protested. Are you questioning my orders? The old Hokage shouted, making the Umbu to flinch at the unusual display of anger. Of course not, Hokage-sama. I'll tell the others your orders. Good luck. The Umbu said before disappearing in a cloud of smoke. Once alone, Sarutobi calmly headed towards his office, grabbed a pencil, a blank scroll, and started writing. Once he was done, he sealed the scroll, and making some hand seals, the scroll disappeared in a poof of smoke. Then, he lit his pipe, and took a puff on it. So, this is how it ends. Why, despite living for so long, I still feel that I haven't done enough. He wondered aloud. As he took another puff on his pipe, he saw a picture of him, his late wife and his 2 sons, who were still teenagers at the time. The old Hokage allowed a smile to appear on his face. On the good side, it seems that we will see each other soon, by Wako-chan. Meanwhile, on the roof of his apartment building, Itaka contemplated the village before him. Buildings on fire shone brightly against the night sky. Screams, shouts, and explosions filled the usually silent night atmosphere. He didn't need to look far in order to see Uchihas, criminals, and mercenaries engaged in a fight against Konoha ninja. The Uchiha outcast bit his thumb, and made 5 hand seals. Summoning jutsu. From a cloud of smoke emerged a large crow, twice as tall as Itake. The giant bird stared at the former Uchiha with curious eyes. Good evening, Itake-san. It's nice to see you again. You look distressed. Is there something wrong? Good night to you as well, Kurakaze-sama. And yes, there's something going wrong. Very wrong. What I have been fearing has finally happened. The Uchiha are trying to take Konoha by force. The boss crow turned around, and saw at the battles that took place at the very bottom of the building he and Itaka were. I see, the crow said in a grave tone. How can I be of assistance? I need you to oversee Konoha from the sky, and track all the larger groups of Uchiha. Focus mostly on those who appear to have the upper hand in their fights. Leave the weaker ones for later. Consider it done, Itaka-san. Kurakaze divided himself into a much smaller crows that spread above the village, and one of them placed itself on Itaka's shoulder. I'd appreciate as well if you used 2 of your clones to watch over my friend Shisui Uchiha, who's in my home, and my brother Sasuke, who's probably asleep back in the Uchiha compound, Itake added. Checking his equipment one more time, Itake unsheathed his katana and leaped towards the battle at the bottom of the building, cutting an Uchiha down upon landing. Doing so, he already chose a side, and knew that there was no going back on that. Not that he cared, since Itaka considered himself a Konoha ninja first and an Uchiha second. And he would protect the village and his inhabitants at all costs, even if that would mean fighting his family. He needed to stop the coup d'état as soon as possible, and there was only one thing that would stop the ongoing madness. A massacre. Chapter 10. The Uchiha Coup, Part 2, Demons. Or Sharingan vs Sannin. Anko Mitarashi whistled cheerfully as she retrieved her kunao from the corpses of the two Kyumo missing nin she had just killed. They had boasted about all the atrocious crimes they had committed before, and how they were going to bring down Konoha alongside the Uchihas, but in the end, what the Snake Lady was hoping to be a challenging fight was anything but. Oh well, it was a good warm-up. Once she was done, Anko jumped at the roof of a one-story building, and took a look at the battles that she could see from that vantage point. She cursed upon seeing that none of them involved Uchihas. Since he heard so many people getting all hysteric about the Uchihas revolting, how is that she had never run into at least one yet? Anko always wanted to measure her skills against an Uchiha, and now it was the best chance she got. Besides, if she defeated plenty of those red-eyed freaks, maybe she could secure the promotion she wanted so much. Suddenly, something caught her attention. At one of the edges of the Naka Bridge, a single man with a massive sword was fighting three Konoha ninja, who were unable to land a hit on him. They finally gave up, and fled, but the man remained in the bridge for some reason. He didn't appear to be an Uchiha, but maybe he would provide a better challenge than those no-name criminals she had been dealing with for the past hour. Jumping through the rooftops, Anko quickly arrived at the bridge, and landed in front of the man, who stared at her with indifference. The man was tall, with a muscular build, spiky short black hair, and no eyebrows. The lower half of his face was covered by a mask, similar to Kakashi's. There was a kirigaku or forehead protector on his head, and he was wielding an impossibly big sword. Said man's imposing appearance, combined the amount of killing intent he was projecting would make most people tremble in terror, but that only made Anko more giddy. "Hey there, tall, dark, and handsome. Do you mind if I make you come company?" Anko asked with a foxy grin as she walked towards him. "Do as you wish. But if you get close to this bridge, you will be dead," the ninja swordsman replied, slamming his word on the ground for a more dramatic effect. Anko, however, didn't flinch. "How so?" "The Uchihas tasked me with protecting this bridge. Nobody with a Konoha forehead protector shall pass." "Ah, yes, the Uchihas. I've been trying to look for one, but I had no luck. Maybe you and your overcompensating sword can provide me some challenge," Anko said as she dashed at him. The Kiri ninja raised his sword. "Let's see if you last longer than the other fools who dared to fight me." Anko tried to strike the Kiri ninja with her kunao, but all her hits were parried by the man's massive sword. She leaped backwards and tossed several kunao at him, but they were also parried. Fortunately, Anko had something that couldn't be parried by normal means. She quickly formed several hand seals. Fire release, dragon fire jutsu. Anko breathed a massive stream of fire shaped like a dragon. "An unwise move," the Kiri ninja calmly said as he formed hand seals as well. Water release, water dragon bullet jutsu. The water from the river started to rise in the shape of a twisting pillar. Said pillar took the form of a dragon, and after letting out a roar, charged forwards. Both elemental dragons clashed against each other, but the water dragon easily overpowered Anko's fire dragon, and the purple-haired Kunoichi was hurled against a wall by the massive water construct. Anko groaned, spitting water while trying to stand up. Much to her horror, she saw the swordsman already in midair, ready to cut her down with that massive sword. "Die," the masked swordsman stated, and his sword came down. Fortunately for Anko, the gigantic sword didn't hit her, but another kunao instead, being held by a black-haired Kunoichi. Taking advantage of the Kiri ninja's sudden surprise, the Kunoichi managed to kick him back, while she landed on her feet beside Anko. "Anko? Are you alright?" "Yeah, thanks, Kurane," Anko said as she got back on her feet. "Thanks Kami, you recognized me. I have lost count of all the times I have been attacked by Konoha ninjas that mistook me for an Uchiha," Kurane complained. "Well, those red eyes of your kind look like Sherry Non," Anko noted, making Kurane to frown. "Don't give me that look. I'm just stating the facts. Anyway, what are you doing here? I thought I could take this guy alone, but I bit more than I could chew." "Anko, do you know who is this man?" Kurane asked. Anko guessed by her tone that it was a rhetoric question. "This is Zabuza Mamakai, a missing nin from Kirigakure, and one of the infamous 7 swordsmen of the mist." He attempted a coup d'état against the Mizukage, but failed. Of course he would be part of another coup. I see that you made your homework. Zabuza appeared to be flattered by Kurene's knowledge of him. And yes, guess that I can't help but sympathize with fellow revolutionaries trying to bring down a corrupt government. But then again, the obscene amount of money the Uchihas paid me is a big incentive as well. Be careful, Anko, this guy is a jonin, and a strong one might I add. Plus he isn't randomly attacking civilians or looting stores like other mercenaries the Uchiha hired. They placed him to guard an access to the part of the village where the Hokage Tower is. Then there's all the water around us that he can use to fuel his jutsus. Well, he certainly is as tough as he looks. Too bad your boyfriend isn't here, we could use a jonin right now. Kurene suddenly turned red. What are you saying? Asuma is not my boyfriend. I never mentioned Asuma by name, did I? Anko asked with a sly grin, making Kurene to blush even harder. But that's okay, because do you know what does this mean? Anko asked. The raven-haired Kunoichi looked at her, dumbfounded. If we beat this guy, we may become jonin ourselves. Anko, the village is suffering one of its worst debacles since the Nine Tails, and you're thinking in promotions. Kurene asked in disbelief. Anko shrugged. I'm an optimist person. Besides, Konoha survived the Kyuubi attack. This is nothing in comparison. True, but back then we had the yellow flash. In that case, we'll have to fight extra hard to make up for it. Anko said as he adopted a fighting stance. Kurene soon followed. So, you're going to fight me then, Zabuza stated, as he eyed her opponents. I don't think you appear on my bingo book. I'm going to guess that you're both shinin, B rank at the most. I shouldn't have any problems killing you, even if it's 1-on-2. But then again, Zabuza said menacingly as he formed a hand seal with one hand. Why should I take the risk? Water release, water clone jutsu. 4 blobs of water jumped from the river into the ground, and they took the shape of 4 Zabuzas, gigantic sword included. Now that's much better, Zabuza smiled under his mask. Shall we begin? The 4 clones charged forwards, 2 dashing towards Anko and the other 2 towards Kurene. The red-eyed woman guessed that the clones were just a distraction to keep them busy so the infamous swordsman could kill them from behind. Not if she had something to say about it. The black-haired Kunoichi flied through hand seals, pulled 2 kunao, and fended off her attackers. As Zabuza watched the battle, he saw that the Kurene was having the most trouble dealing with his clones. She'll be his first victim then. Making a hand seal, he used the body flicker to appear behind her, and run his executioner blade through her body. Kurene! Anko cried as she continued fighting the water clones. One down, another one to her. Zabuza mentioned as he realized that the wound on Kurene didn't leak any blood. Suddenly, multiple snakes burst from Kurene's wound and wrapped tightly around Zabuza. What the hell is this? Of course, an accursed genjutsu. Fighting the snakes off, Zabuza managed to bring his hands together and make a hand seal. Release. And after a burst of chakra, everything went back to normal. Zabuza hadn't moved from his original spot, but his clones were gone and his 2 female opponents were flanking him, each holding a kunao flying at his chest. In the last second, Zabuza managed to grab and stop both arms before being gutted alive. However, that left him unable to defend himself from Anko and Kurene's kicks, which hurled him backwards. Ha! That got him good. Anko cheered. Too bad he saw through my genjutsu. 2 seconds later, and he would be dead, Kurene observed. Zabuza was started to get angry. How this 2 nobodies dared to make fun of him. His hands furiously flied through hand seals. I've wasted enough time with you 2. Water release, great crushing wave. A gigantic wall of water rose from the river, and streamed down right on the terrified Kunoichi, loudly crashing on the ground, crushing the 2 women under tons of water. While Zabuza was sure that attack was enough to kill them, he swore that he heard a voice saying, summoning jutsu. And just like the water receded back into the river, he saw a giant snake coiled around something. The snake uncoiled itself, revealing Anko and Kurene, completely wet but not particularly harmed. Snakes, tell me, Is any of you related to Orochimaru of the Sannin? The missing nin from Kiri asked. Anko's happy and battle-eager expression morphed into a mask of fury. Don't even dare to mention that name in my presence. Zabuza smirked under his mask. I guess I hit a nerve, didn't I? The snake appeared to react to Anko's anger, and lunged at Zabuza, its jaws wide open. Zabuza leaped at the snake as well, raising his executioner's blade. The fight was short-lived, as Zabuza quickly delivered an horizontal chop, and the snake vanished in a pour of smoke. Kurane ran through hand signs once more. Demonic illusion, world of decay. The moment Zabuza landed, he found he couldn't move his legs. Much to his horror, they were starting to melt as if they were an ice cream on a really warm day. After immediately realizing that he fell into another genjutsu, he made a hand seal before his hands would melt as well. Release. After quickly disturbing his chakra network, everything turned back to normal, and this time Anko and Kurane were in front of him ready to attack him. He was completely sure they weren't part of a genjutsu. So why they didn't attack him while he was under Kurane's genjutsu? The answer came in the form of killing intent coming from behind him. Zabuza quickly turned around and raised his sword, blocking the two katana strikes that would have sliced his back had he not reacted in time. The wielders of those katanas were a brown-haired man with a bandana on his head wearing the typical Konoha Chunin uniform, and a purple-haired woman wearing Umbu gear, minus the mask. After parrying the attack, Zabuza pushed them back. Hey look, the lovebirds decided to join the party. Anko noted, as he waved at them. Hey Yojao, hey, how was your anniversary date? Well, let's say that it was different from what I had in mind, Yojao bitterly answered. We had to go home and get changed since there's no way I could fight wearing a night dress. Isn't this guy Zabuza, the demon of the hidden mist? Hayate asked between coughs. Yeah, he's part of the Uchiha's mercenaries. Care to help us? Kurane asked. Hayate and Yojao both raised their katanas. Sure, between the four of us shouldn't be a problem, the former noted. Do not mistake quantity with quality, twerp. Just like how 10 stupid men won't sum a smart man, 10 weaklings won't sum a strong warrior. You are all below me. Zabuza claimed in a grandiose manner. If you're so strong, why haven't you killed us yet? Kurane and I have been fighting you for quite some time and here we are. The odds are even greater in our favor than before. Do everybody a favor and surrender already, Anko said. The demon of the hidden mist never surrenders. Zabuza yelled while making a hand seal. Let's see what good your superior numbers are against this. Hidden mist jutsu. Suddenly, a very thick mist covered the battlefield. Kurane panicked. This was Zabuza's favorite tactic, blind their opponents and kill them silently afterwards. The demon of the hidden mist had decided to fight seriously. Oh man, this can't be good for my asthma, Hayate moaned to himself, coughing a bit. Then, he raised his sword and adopted a defensive stance. Yojao! Track him! Yojao made a hand sign and closed her eyes. On it. Fortunately for the Konoha ninja, the purple-haired Kunoichi happened to be a sensor. She had a hard time tracking Zabuza, since the mist was laced with his chakra. However, she quickly found that said chakra was much more concentrated at certain point. Kurane, behind you. The raven-haired Kunoichi turned around and raised a kunao just in time to parry the blow aimed at her gut. The clang resulting of the metal clashing was enough to reveal Zabuza's position to Hayate. The only male Konoha Chunin leaped at Zabuza. Fire release, burning edge. The blade of Hayate's katana was wreathed in flames that dispelled the mist the moment it touched it, and found Zabuza in no time. Zabuza had to ignore Kurane and fend off the swings of the ninja with the flaming sword. Unfortunately for him, he didn't realize Anko getting closer until it was too late. Hidden shadow snake hands. A snake emerged from Anko's sleeve, and bit Zabuza in the neck. The snake's poison quickly paralyzed Zabuza, until the Kiri missing nin lost all control of his body and fell to the ground, motionless. The mist then disappeared. We did. We took Zabuza down. Kurane cheered. Oh yes, I can feel that Jonin diploma in my hands. Go Team Estrogen. Anko cheered while pumped her fist. Hey, I helped too. Hayata protested, before going into a coughing fit. Go Team Estrogen plus hate. Yojao walked towards Zabuza's body and checked his vitals. He's still alive. Anko, was that poison you injected him lethal? Nope, just a paralytic toxin. He'll be cold for 2 days. I guessed that maybe I could bring this guy to TNI and get some useful information out of his head. You don't capture every day a member of the 7 Swordsmen of the Mist. Well thought. We should hide his body while we finish off the remaining Uchiha and mercenaries. Understood. I know a place that Anko suddenly yelled as she fell on her knees and her hand reached the back of her neck. Anko. Kurane quickly rushed to check her. What's going on? The cursed seal, it burns. Anko said, visibly in pain. Kurane opened her eyes wide at the implications of such statement. That means. Why yes, that traitorous bastard is here. Senja residence. Tsunade Senja, your husband and your adoptive son have been declared a threat to the village, and will have to come with us. If you resist arrest, we will dash. Boom. Arg. Excuse me, were you saying something? Tsunade asked innocently. While Tsunade dealt with the 2 Jonin and 2 Chunin, now just 1 that were sent to capture her and Naruto, Shizun was tasked with keeping the children safe. Naruto and the twins watched how Shizun removed the carpet from the living room, and made a hand seal. Suddenly, a trapdoor appeared all of a sudden. Shizun opened the trapdoor and motioned the kids to go inside. This is a shelter we built after Tsunade-sama and Jiraiya-sama listened to a prophecy from one of the toads of Mount Miyaboku. Jiraiya-sama covered it with all kinds of protective seals, so it's pretty much impossible for anybody with the exception of Jiraiya-sama, Tsunade-sama, or myself to open it from the outside. The seals also make it impossible to find, even to those with a Byakugan or a Sharingan. The shelter has enough food and water to last a month for the 6 of us, so for you 3 it should last even more. It also has a bathroom. And this is important, no matter what you hear us say, even if, no, especially if you hear us asking you to come out, don't come out. We will retrieve you once all this madness is over. Understood. Naruto nodded, the twins did the same. Now get in there, and don't be afraid, I promise everything will be fine, Shizun reassured, forcing herself to smile, unsure if that was a promise she could keep. Are you and Mom going to be okay, Shizun Nichan? Hagani asked. Of course, sweetie. Your mom is the strongest woman there is, nobody can hurt her. Especially with me helping her. Yeah, Mom is like, super strong. I trained with her and her strength knows no limits. The only ones who would come close to her are Dad and the Hokage. Naruto added. Shizun couldn't help but wonder if his optimism was genuine or if he was trying to calm down the twins. Either way, it was a good thing. Naruto-kun, you're the eldest, so you'll have to take care of your siblings while Tsunade-sama and I are busy, understood? Naruto valiantly nodded before he and the twins headed to the underground shelter. Shizun then closed the trapdoor, made another hand seal, and the trapdoor disappeared once again. Lastly, she put the carpet back. Taking one last glance at the invisible shelter, and wondering if she'll live to see her almost little siblings again, Shizun rushed outside to assist her master and mother figure. Hokage's Tower. Fugaku Uchiha's 8-man squad broke into the entrance of the Hokage's workplace and residence, only to find it deserted. They moved towards the first floor, but it was just as empty. The second floor was devoid of any life as well. Fugaku smelled a trap. Kenichi, track the Hokage, now. The Uchiha clan head ordered. Yes, Fugaku-sama. Kenichi, the Uchiha censor, made a hand seal and closed his eyes. As his senses expanded, he didn't perceive anybody in the building, until he reached the roof. Found him. He's standing in the roof. How many umbus has with him? Actually, none, Fugaku-sama. He appears to be alone. What? That can't be possible. It has to be some kind of trap. Unless the umbu have a way to fool censors we're not aware of, the Hokage is alone in the roof. What are we going to do, Fugaku-sama? The old monkey was waiting for us. He evacuated the building, and probably sent the umbu to protect civilians or something like that. Anyway, that makes our job all the easier. Everybody, to the roof. But don't let your guard down, it might be a trap. Yes, Fugaku-sama. All Uchihas replied in unison. Send your residents. With the next snap, Tsunade killed the last of the Uchihas sent to attack her home. Tsunade had some minor bruises and burns, but there was nothing she could heal in a couple minutes. Shizun, go and fetch me a couple sealing scrolls, now. Tsunade ordered. The black-haired Kunoichi nodded and headed back into the house, and in less than a minute she returned with the requested items. Tsunade started to store the dead Uchihas inside them, and instructed her apprentice to do the same. I know the body of a dead ninja is valuable, especially a dead Uchiha, but what do you plan to do with them, Tsunade-sama? Me? Nothing. The Hokage will decide what use should we give them. By the end of the night, there won't be a Hokage, nor a village, anymore, said a voice seemingly out of nowhere. In front of the two medical nin, a masked man appeared coming out of a spiraling vortex. Tsunade immediately recognized the black cloak with the red clouds. Tsunade couldn't help but stare at the man's mask, or more specifically, at the single hole on it that revealed a Sharingan. Gamamera's warning echoed through her head. Beware the one-eyed demon. You're an Akatsuki. Tsunade shouted at him. Oh? You hear about our organization? Guess that Konoha ninjas have done their homework. Not that it matters, anyway, the masked man replied. What do you want? Shizun asked. To finish what I started 8 years ago. To reclaim what is rightfully mine, and use it to destroy Konoha. Wait a minute, are you saying that you're the man responsible for the Kyuubi attack? Tsunade asked in disbelief. That's exactly what I said. So, this is why the Uchiha are revolting? To get their hands on the Nine Tails? I can't believe that Danzo of all people was right. Oh, no, you're horribly mistaken. I might be an Uchiha, but I stopped caring about the clan long time ago. The Uchihas are nothing but a disposable tool, mere pawns of a much grander plan. See, with this coup d'état, the Uchiha and Konoha will destroy each other, while I take advantage of the ensuing chaos and get the Kyuubi. Everybody wins. The blonde Sannin gritted her teeth. She was about to say something when the crystal on her necklace began to glow with a teal light. What the? Oh, how curious. I'm not into jewelry, but that's an interesting necklace you got there. I think I'll take it as well. But first, the Jinchuriki key, the masked man said as he advanced towards the house. If you want Naruto, you'll have to go through me first. Tsunade stated defiantly as she planted herself in front of the man. Trust me, that won't be a problem. Tsunade snarled something unintelligible, and threw a punch towards the masked man's face. But much to her surprise, her fist phased through his head as if the man was an illusion or mirage. What? Shizun shot several senbons from her wrist-mounted launcher, but they phased through him as well. There's nothing you can do to stop me. Don't waste your energies doing so. Or do it, it won't make a difference. Who are you? Asked Shizun. My name is irrelevant, but if you wish, you can call me Toby, Toby said as he entered in the house. I believe that the kid will be upstairs, right? Toby teleported to the upper floor, and inspected the 2 bedrooms that looked like they belonged to a child, but he found nobody there. Annoyed, he proceeded to inspect the rest of the house, but there was no clue of him either. His Sharingan scanned every centimeter of the house, but didn't found any chakra signature on it. But deep down, he felt that the Jinchuriki key was there, somewhere, hiding. Muttering a curse, Toby teleported outside, back with Tsunade and Shizun. Where is the Jinchuriki key? Toby angrily demanded. His one eye flashed red. On a safe place far away from here, where neither you nor people like you will be able to touch him, Tsunade answered. Can't that fancy Sharingan track him? You lie. Toby bellowed. He's here, I can feel it, even my eye can see him. Yes, I know he's really close, even if I can't reach him myself. And if I can't do that, well, maybe your screams will make him come out on his own. So, a scream contest, then. I have a feeling that it's you who's going to be the winner, Tsunade replied confidently, as she cracked her knuckles. You have no idea what you're dealing with, Sannin, Toby said as he formed many hand seals. Wood release, great spear tree. As the thick roots emerged from the ground and wrapped around Tsunade and Shizun almost forgot how to breathe. Shizun escaped using a body replacement, but Tsunade stayed there, motionless. How can you use my grandfather's? Tsunade asked in disbelief, unable to shake the shock. Was this stranger related to the Senju in some way? There was also the fact that her necklace reacted to him just like it did to her children. Like I told you, you know nothing about me or what can I do? That's why fighting me it's a fool's errand, Toby replied as he unsheathed his katana. Tsunade-sama, don't stay there. Move. We can wonder how he can use wood release, but first we have to defeat him. Shizun yelled. Toby lunged at her, his katana aiming forwards. Now, perish. Shizun's words managed to snap Tsunade out of her trance, and making use of her famous chakra-enhanced strength, she broke free from her binds. Toby stopped in the last second, and jumped backwards to avoid any possible counter-attack. Sorry about that, Shizun. Please understand it was quite the shock. But I'm better now, Tsunade assured as she calmly removed her green Haori. Let's crush this guy. Right. Shizun chimed as she pulled out 3 senbons and tossed them at Toby. However, much to her shock, the senbons phased through the masked man. What? The second after Shizun threw her senbons, Tsunade had dashed towards Toby, who made no effort to dodge, and launched her fist at him. But just like Shizun's needles, Tsunade's fist phased through his face. What is this? A genjutsu. Toby smirked under his mask. Just like that Hyaga said? And just like him, you're going to find how wrong you are, the masked man said before quickly punching Tsunade on her gut, leaving her breathless, followed by a kick to her face the moment she unwittingly bent over. Does that feel like a genjutsu? Shizun threw more senbons at him, but the result was the same. You already did that before, did you really expect a different result now? Alright, this is something your fancy intangibility won't protect you from. Shizun said as he leaped above him. Poison mist. Shizun's cheeks puffed out, and released a stream of purple mist from her mouth that engulfed the masked man. However, Toby flew out of the poisonous cloud like a missile, and unsheathed his katana again. I think I'll get rid of you first. Toby declared as he prepared to deliver an diagonal slash. Fortunately for Shizun, the attack never came as Tsunade managed to grab Toby's ankle, and slam him overhead into the ground multiple times, until his ankle slipped through Tsunade's hands, and quickly crawled away from the slug princess. Shizun then landed beside Tsunade. Tsunade-sama, you touched him. Shizun squealed in joy. I did more than just touch him, Tsunade said with a confident smirk. You can turn intangible at will, but in order to harm us, you have to turn corporeal, right? And that's the case, it's just a matter of timing our attacks. You're one clever bitch, Toby painfully got back on his feet. But this changes nothing. That was a mere lapse of judgment on my part. You won't touch me again. I must admit that you're way tough if you can still stand such a beating. Most people wouldn't be able to even move after that. I think I already stated that I'm not like everybody else. Now let's see how much pain can you withstand until you reveal to me the location of the Jinchura key, Toby threatened as he disappeared in a swirling vortex. Shizun, stay alert. Tsunade warned. Her apprentice nodded. It didn't take long for Toby to reveal himself. Wood release, great spear tree. Once again, multiple tree roots emerged from the ground, and tried to either restrain or impale the 2 kunoichi. Tsunade shattered them with her enhanced punches, while Shizun tossed poisoned senbons that made the roots to wither and rot in a matter of seconds. However, that attack was just a diversion. While Shizun was busy dealing with the roots, Toby appeared from behind and wrapped an arm around her neck. This charade ends here. Now, Tsunade, tell me where you're hiding the Jinchura key, or this woman dies, Toby declared, his voice regaining some of its previous calmness. Tsunade-sama, don't do it. Shizun pleaded. He's tangible now is the chance to attack. I wouldn't do it if I was you. Do you think I can't kill this woman and then use my ability to avoid your attacks? Toby asked. Tsunade remained there, hesitant. Running out of patience, Toby made his decision. I see. Say goodbye to this woman then. The blade of Toby's katana burst through Shizun's chest. The black-haired Kunoichi let out a gasp of pain. No. Tsunade threw her hands over her mouth. See? This is what happens when you oppose somebody you can't hope to defeat. Now Toby was interrupted by Shizun bursting into a cloud of purple fog. What? Toby jumped back in an attempt to avoid the poisonous mist, but he accidentally breathed some of it. Poison clone. Clever, right? The real Shizun then appeared behind Toby. What? You made a clone? I never took my eye from you two. How did you evade my Sharingan? Toby protested between coughs. To answer your question, I did it while you were inspecting our house. Wait, I've been fighting a clone the whole time. Toby's disbelief grew by the moment, as so did his coughing. You landed a few hits on Tsunade-sama, but none of my clone. My clones can last hours if they don't receive any damage. And judging by your coughs, I guess that mask of yours doesn't filter poisonous gases. What you inhaled is a fast-acting poison that will rot your lungs until you can't breathe anymore. You are already death. Don't be so overconfident. Toby yelled before going into another coughing fit. There's no poison that can kill this body. Yes. I believe that you somehow spliced your genes with those of my grandfather, who had great resistance to poisons, hence your ability to use wood release. But even then that doesn't make you immune to them, Tsunade smirked at him. Let's see how well you can fight when you can hardly breathe. Both Tsunade and Shizun lunged at the masked man. Tsunade threw a kick at his face, followed by Shizun who had kunaus on her hands. Both their attacks phased through Toby. The Akatsuki member tried to slash Tsunade, but his swing was way sloppier than before and Tsunade had no trouble dodging it. Shizun threw more senbons at him from her wrist-mounted launcher, which Toby dodged by jumping backwards. Your breathing is becoming heavier. Even if you somehow survive Shizun's poison, you won't survive my fists. Shut up. Toby angrily yelled as his hands flew through hand seals. Wood release, great spear tree. More roots emerged from the ground, and lunged at Tsunade. The slug princess smirked once again, and raised a foot. Heavenly foot of pain. Tsunade brought her foot down with such force that the ensuing shockwave shattered the wooden roots, leaving a crater behind. And you might have my grandfather's bloodline limit, but yours is nowhere near his level. Both Tsunade and Shizun leaped at Toby at the same time from opposite directions. The masked man disappeared once again in a swirling vortex. All right, another ambush. Good, he's growing desperate. Come on coward, show yourself. Shizun shouted. As you wish, Toby said as he appeared right behind Tsunade. The blonde Sannin immediately turned around and punched the masked man, who shattered into thousands of wood shards. A wood clone. Suddenly, a blade burst through Tsunade's belly. Blood started to leak from it. Shizun's eyes grew wide with shock. Tsunade-sama. Shizun yelled in horror. I believe that you're not a clone, right bitch? Toby hatefully said as he pulled his sword out and kicked Tsunade in the back, making the Sannin to fall on her face. Toby's hands then flew through hand seals. Fire release dash. However, a rather severe coughing fit stopped him from completing the attack. Knowing that this was her only chance, Tsunade gathered all the chakra she could muster on her fist, turned around and delivered a devastating punch at Toby. The Akatsuki had no time to turn intangible, and Tsunade's fist landed on his right shoulder, shattering it completely, cutting the right arm from the rest of his body, and hurling him towards a wall. Ugh! Toby moaned, as he got on his feet as good as he could. That certainly hurt. How are you still live? Tsunade asked. I could ask the same thing to you. Surrender, you monster. Tsunade-sama got you good. Between that hit and my poison, there's no way you can win. Shizun cried. Maybe you're right, but mark my words, sooner or later, the Kyuubi will be mine, and this world of despair and lies will disappear. Toby said as he disappeared in a swirling vortex. Tsunade coughed blood. Shizun quickly rushed towards her master's side, and checked the wound on her belly. It poured large amounts of blood. All right Shizun, You know what to do. Yes. First, stop the hemorrhage, Shizun reminded herself as she used the mystical palm jutsu on Tsunade's wound, closing it slowly. I guess it's a good thing I got over my fear of blood. Tsunade weakly joked. Tsunade-sama, don't speak. Don't tell me what to do. You didn't lose your temper. Guess that's a good thing. But seriously, don't talk. Still, Tsunade decided to follow Shizun's advice, and didn't waste the little energy she had left on talking. While her apprentice brought her from near death, she couldn't help but wonder about that mysterious one-eyed man. Then she remembered what Jiraiya had told her about his long-term mission regarding the Akatsuki and the Kyuubi attack. Orochimaru and this man, Tobi, were both part of the same organization, Akatsuki, who apparently wanted the Kyuubi, and other tailed beasts, for whatever nefarious purposes. Orochimaru had experimented with Hashirama's cells in order to obtain his power, and Tobi was clearly one of his test subjects. And while Tobi could use wood release, the scale and power of his jutsus were nowhere near the level of the first Hokage. But even then, it was a terrifying thought. What if Orochimaru was able to perfect the genetic splicing? The thought of Orochimaru with Hashirama's power was worrying, but an army, hell even a small group with that power was a nightmare come true. Lastly, she also wished she could warn everybody about Akatsuki manipulating the Uchiha and stop this madness before more people could die. But she knew it was too late. Even if she wasn't so badly wounded, there was no way she could stop the coup. All she could do was pray for this to end as soon as possible with the least amount of casualties. Inabi Uchiha and his teammates Yashiro and Tekka were at the roof of the Jonin standby station. Multiple Konoha ninja had attempted to reclaim the building, but the Uchiha trio managed to fend off the attackers. The last attack had been more than an hour ago, to which Inabi deduced that Konoha gave up trying to take back the station. You know, this is kind of boring, Yashiro mentioned. This place is safe, can we go somewhere else? You heard Fugaku-sama. We were assigned to take and guard this place. Fugaku-sama will flay us alive if we disobey his orders, Tekka replied. I'm afraid I have to agree with Tekka, as much as I'd love to continue fighting, Inabi said. Man, this was too easy. Maybe we shouldn't have been so cautious and wait until most of the Jonin were away. Well, nothing can compare to might of the Uchiha. I wish I was assigned to Masaka's team. They got to fight Tsunade. They will be the only ones who will fight against somebody who's actually strong, Yashiro moaned. Besides Fugaku-sama, I mean. Suddenly, all of their radios started to crackle loudly. Inabi grabbed his. This is Inabi Uchiha. Who is this? This is Naoki Uchiha requesting reinforcements. That traitor Itaki appeared and slaughtered my unit. Naoki, calm down and tell us your position so we can assist you. I am ARG. Naoki? Naoki? Inabi frantically shouted, clutching the radio on his hand. Damn it. I knew Fugaku-sama should have thrown that spoiled brat of his into a cell. Itaki's are there, and apparently decided to hunt us. What are we going to do? Yashiro asked. It isn't obvious. Hunt him first before he can do any more damage. What about Fugaku-sama's orders? Tekka asked. This is more important. If some Konoha ninja take this building while we're absent, we can retake it later. Now come on, Naoki's team was supposed to guard the hospital, so if we are fast we might catch Itaka before he leaves the place. Oh, you're leaving already? Sorry, but I don't think that such thing is going to happen, a cold, yet soft voice said behind them. The Uchiha trio turned around, and saw an extremely pale man with long black hair and yellow eyes, wearing a black cloak with red clouds on it. Orochimaru? Inabi asked in shock. Is he back in the village too? Asked Tekka. Why is he dressed like Madara-sama? Yashiro asked as well. Madara? That's what he told you? Kukyuku, this kid certainly had some delusions of grandeur, Orochimaru said, chuckling. What are you doing here? Are you part of Madara-sama's army of mercenaries? I know for a fact that you're not an ally of Konoha, Inabi said. True. But being the enemy of your enemies does not make me your friend, as you're about to find. But anyway, you should feel honored, you three had been selected to take part in an experiment in order to further my ninjutsu research. Are you going to come with me willingly, or do I have to take you by force? Yashiro, Tekka, we'll have to deal with this lunatic first before we can go to look for Itake, Inabi declared. His two partners nodded. It seems that we're going to have a worthy opponent after all, Yashiro agreed with a glee. By force then? This should be fun, Orochimaru's mouth forming an ugly smile. Activating their Sharingan, the Uchiha trio dashed at Orochimaru. Yashiro and Tekka impaled Orochimaru with their katanas from opposing angles, while Inabi jumped over him while making hand seals. Fire release, Great Fireball Jutsu. The other two Uchihas jumped sideways before the fireball hit its target and engulfed Orochimaru in flames. So much for the legendary Sannin, Inabi said dismissively. However, when the flames started to disappear, they saw a half-melted mud clone in Orochimaru's place. When the Uchiha trio realized that they have been fooled, it was too late. Three snakes wrapped tightly around their necks, rising them in midair. A nice display, indeed, the real Orochimaru praised, somehow behind them. The three snakes holding the Uchihas were coming from one of his sleeves. You're young, strong, and with a mature Sharingan. Yes, you will be perfect. The snakes bit their victims in their necks, knocking them out cold, before dropping them into the ground and returned from whence they came. Orochimaru then bit his finger and made 5 hand seals. Summon Jutsu. From a cloud of smoke, a gigantic light gray snake appeared. Orochimaru then snapped his fingers, and 3 ninjas wearing gray camouflage outfits, balaclavas and forehead protectors with a quiver on them appeared before him. Take these bodies to the meeting point. Make sure they suffer no harm. I don't think that you will have much trouble with all the battles going on, but just in case I'll send Hibarashi with you as an escort. Yes, Orochimaru-sama. The 3 ninjas replied in unison before carrying the bodies on their backs, and jumped away. The giant snake followed them. The snake Sannin was about to leave, but sensing a certain presence coming closer made him stay and wait. After 10 minutes, the presence landed in front of him. It was a woman with spiky dull purple hair. Orochimaru. Should have guessed that you'll be among the scum the Uchiha had brought with them. Nice to see you again after so much time, Anko-chan, Orochimaru greeted her with a sinister grin. Though you're awfully mistaken. I'm not part of this set attempt of a coup. In fact, I was about to leave before you ran into me. Like hell I'm going to let you leave. Anko shouted angrily, pulling out a kunai. Please Anko-chan, save yourself the embarrassment. Do you think you can defeat me alone? What make you think I'm alone? As on cue, Kurane, Yojeo, and Hayate appeared all around him. I see you brought some friends with you. That's intelligent, but still futile. The result will be the same. Shut up. Anko yelled as she dashed at Orochimaru and sunk the kunai on his neck. However, the moment he did so Orochimaru turned into mud and started to melt. It was a clone. Damn it. Meanwhile, at the other side of the village, Fugaku Uchiha and his elite team climbed the Hokage tower until they reached the roof. Just like their sensor had said, the Hokage stood there, completely alone, contemplating the village flooded by chaos and destruction. Enjoying the spectacle, Hokage-sama? Fugaku asked the old man. Sarutobi turned around to face him. Ah, Fugaku-san, I was waiting for you. You brought quite the group with you. You can't expect to take down a Hokage by doing a half-assed job. These men are the best the Uchiha clan can offer. The best you say? Sarutobi asked, tilting his head as he studied Fugaku's team. Then why didn't you bring young Itake with you? I believe he's quite the prodigy. Fugaku gritted his teeth upon hearing the name of his disgraced son, but decided not to take the bait. He needed to remain focused in order to finish the job. If you were expecting us, then you know what I came for. Are you going to fight, surrender, or are you going to try to talk me down? Try to avoid the latter option if possible. I'm not in the mood for lectures. I think you are old enough to be lectured, Fugaku-san. So I will simply ask you a question. Why? Why are you doing all of this? Do you want to be Hokage that much? Do not play dumb with me, Hiruzen, Fugaku replied, pointing an accusatory finger at the old Hokage. You might be old, but I know that you're far from being senile. You know perfectly why I'm doing this. I'm afraid I'm not. So please enlighten me, before more blood is spilled this night." Upon seeing Fugaku's frown, he added, "I can assure you that this is not a ruse to buy time for whatever I had planned. I knew you were coming here since more than an hour ago. Had I planned a trap, it would already sprung. If that's true, then you're an idiot for not doing so." "Yes, I've been calling that before. I believe the words Danzo used was, idealistic fool. But guess that's something I can't change about me. The reason I didn't prepare a trap was because I do want to end this in a peaceful way." "Fine, have it your way," Fugaku scoffed. "The reason we're doing this is that we're tired. Tired of living isolated from the rest of the village. Tired from being barred from any position of power. Tired of being Konoha's attack dogs, being kept in cages when you aren't throwing us at your enemies, and always held by a leash. But that's going to end now. These dogs are cutting their leashes and breaking their cages' bars. The Sharingan is not your little weapon to play with. The Senju wanted our power, but never wanted us, and made sure that we stayed loyal but were never a threat. And when they were gone, they made sure that things would never change. You are the pupil of the first two Hokages. And the fourth was a student of one of your students. A cleverly crafted system that ensures that only those indoctrinated in the ideas of the Senju access to positions of power just like yours. To keep the status quo and stop any change from happening, regardless of how necessary they are." "That's a lie and you know it," Sarutobi angrily replied. Though deep down he had to admit that Fugaku had a point. "In a few years, your eldest son would have make a fine fifth. He has both the power and the wisdom to be worthy of the title." Fugaku snorted dismissively. "Too late for that, Hiruzen. I wouldn't believe that even if I didn't know of your little plan." "Little plan? What are you talking about?" "The Kyubi brat. Who bears a more than striking resemblance to the fourth. Who's being raised by two of your students, one who happens to be the granddaughter of Hashirama and the other who was the master of the fourth. And here's the best part, how that little boy boasts non-stop that he's going to be Hokage. Sure, kids his age have unrealistic ambitions, but that boy sounds so sure that he's going to be Hokage, as if somebody already promised him such position. Tell me, Hiruzen, who could have put that idea into his young innocent mind? But it's not a matter of just being Hokage. Even if my son or any of my clansmen became Hokage, he would just be a figurehead or a puppet, keeping the seat warm until the real candidate became old enough to take the hat, while you and your little friends run everything from the shadows. But that's not going to happen. This village is rightfully ours, and we will take it back. Fugaku-san, please think about this. Even if you managed to kill me and my counselors and became the new rulers of Konoha, nobody would accept you, especially those who lost loved ones during your coup. Konoha would get plunged into a civil war, like it's happening with Kirigakure right now. But unlike Kirigakure, we don't have a sea or other natural defenses to stop other villages from invading us. The people of Konoha fear our power, so we will give them good reasons to fear us. Fear will keep the population from rebelling. Those who rule by fear are bigger fools than the hopeless idealists like me. Those who live under fear can't wait to throw away that yoke." "I've heard enough," Fugaku abruptly said. "The dynasty of the Senju and those indoctrinated by them ends tonight. You can surrender and live a few more years, or you can fight us, die, and delay the inevitable for a little time." Sarutobi's mouth curved into a sad smile. In a swift movement, he tossed away his hat and robes, revealing a battle armor underneath them. "I think you should know what my answer was going to be." Sarutobi adopted a fighting stance. Every Uchiha minus Fugaku did likewise. "If you planned to fight us, then why did you send your Umbu away? With them at your side you might had some chances of surviving. The Umbu are helping people that needs their aid more than this old but far from defenseless man. A good Hokage puts the good of the village above his own. If you and your clansmen knew that, maybe one of you would have become Hokage. Make no mistake, Hiruzen. I'm not Orochimaru. I'm making this for the good of my clan, not for any sense of personal ambition." Fugaku spat as he unsheathed his katana. "Everybody, ready to attack. Tonight the crows will feast on the flesh of a Hokage. Either you kill me or not, Fugu-san," You will regret this decision. Check the description for the links to the author.